Yes, Mayor, the agenda has been posted.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're going to go on then to item number 3, which is open time for public expression. If anyone would like to be heard, please come forward to the podium. You would have 3 minutes. Anyone present here tonight? Is there anyone on Zoom? Anyone with a raised hand on Zoom for public expression?
There are no raised hands online, Mayor.
Great. All right, so we will then proceed to item 4, presentation of 5-year service award to Zachary Baker.
Good evening, Council. I've worked with Zach side by side for the last 5 years, so I'm here to say a few words about him. Zach is hardworking, he's reliable, he pays great attention to detail, and he's a team player. Zach's hard work makes a big difference in both the function and the appearance of town properties, ensuring safer and more attractive environment. When it comes to reliability, Zach is second to none. Anytime I've needed him to stay late or to come in, he's always been accommodating. And an example, the winter before last, some of you guys may be aware that we had part of the hill at 70 Baywood come down. We had a heck of a week with multiple storms coming in, and we were both exhausted. Well, all that debris, the mud, the rock, came down on Madera. So when I saw that, it was, it was a daunting task. I called him, he didn't flinch. 4.5 hours later, we got all the rock and the mud off of Madera, so it was drivable. I mean, I don't know too many people who are gonna be willing to come in the shovel for 4.5, 5 hours. My favorite quality about Zach is his attention to detail. My eyesight isn't the best, so he helps me out quite a bit. Whether it's the precision he works with when we're doing projects in town, or if he finds a tree that's dying that I may have overlooked, he's always looking and aware, making our town safe and looking its best. And finally, he's a great team player. He's always willing to help all the other departments. He's great at supporting me and helping me with all the logs that I have to do. And also, he's great to bounce ideas off of. So he's just a great asset for the town. And I thank him and thank you guys.
Great, thank you.
Am I supposed to be in this picture? Yes.
Okay, I'm taller than these guys, so make sure that, don't look at me to shovel anything, though. Okay. Great. Okay, so Zach, we have a certificate for you, appreciation, 5-year award, and a present.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for all your hard work on behalf of the town.
Thank you. Have a good night, you guys.
Okay, so we'll move on then to item 5. We have a new police officer, Chief Pata. Pardon me? Yes, it is. I'll bring it a little closer.
Good evening, Mayor,
Chief.
members of council, town manager Johnson. I am happy and excited to introduce to you Giovanni Linares, not just because his name is Italian. Giovanni was born and raised in Malmo, Sweden, and moved to the United States as an adult. I'd like to think that his parents flew out from Sweden just for us tonight, but I think they're visiting anyway. But David and Elsa are here in the back.
Welcome.
Gio and his family moved to the Bay Area after he graduated, and went to high school and attended college in the United States to pursue his passion for soccer. When soccer didn't, I guess he didn't become a soccer star, but he did end up going to college and became a star in college and earned a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in business from Notre Dame de Namur University in Belmont. He continued with his education and received a master's degree, an MBA from the same college. So we were really lucky. Gio was actually in process with 2 other police agencies. And I'd like to think it was my speech, but I think it was the charm of this town that convinced him to come here to Ross. So here he is. And he started about 2 weeks ago. And tonight we'll swear him in with his beautiful wife, Vanessa, here. They live in Santa Rosa right now. Ready? All right, right over here. Would you raise your right hand for me? I, Giovanni Linares, do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely, without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Right in the skin. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Chief. All right, item 5B, introduction of new recreation coordinator.
Hello, thank you, Mayor and Town Council. It is my pleasure to officially introduce you to our new full-time recreation coordinator, Wyatt Mann. As many of you know, we've been working diligently over the past few months, interviewing and evaluating several talented candidates. Through an extensive process, Wyatt rose to the top as the clear choice. We are thrilled to welcome him to both the recreation team and the Town of Ross community. Wyatt brings a wealth of experience in community program development, having previously served as the director for the YMCA of the East Bay Summer Camp program. There, he not only created engaging programs like family camps, sports activities, craft centers, and ropes courses, but also demonstrated his passion for helping communities grow and thrive. In addition, Wyatt has coordinated the after-school program at Creekside Middle School and has experience with the Y Guides recreation programs, all of which highlight his commitment to recreational development and program innovation. Most recently, in his role with Bright Horizons Child Care Centers, Wyatt gained valuable experience in administrative and budget management, skills that I know will be a huge asset to our department as we continue expanding and improving our programs. On a fun note, Wyatt loves hiking the Oakland Hills with his dog, Loki, and baking with his wife, Emma. As a big Warriors fan, he'll fit right in with the sports lovers on our team. Please join me in giving Wyatt a warm welcome. We're all excited to see the incredible contributions he will make as our new recreation coordinator. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
I just thought I'd say a quick word. I want to thank Maureen for introducing me and giving a quick rundown of some of my experience. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to serve here in the town of Ross and help become a part of this community. I've only been here for just under 2 weeks, but I've already felt very welcomed by people in this room and by community members all throughout town. I'm very excited to be able to give back to programs that mean a lot to me. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was really strongly influenced by recreation programs and community-focused programs, and I am very excited for the opportunity to give back. So thank you very much.
Great. Yes, thank you very much and welcome. All right, moving along, right along. The next item is the mayor's report. Halloween typically marks the beginning of the holiday season, and this year Shady Lane residents once again created a dazzling display with their creative and spooky decorations, much to the delight of many trick-or-treaters and their families. This was followed on November 7th by the Ross Turkey Trot, which featured 5K and 10K races, a 1-mile stroller and youth event, and the popular Toddler Dash. Last year, and after extensive public outreach, the Town Council approved a master facilities plan for reconstruction of our aging and largely obsolete public safety and administration buildings. The plan was based on the assumption that our fire station would close in July of 2025, with our firefighters and engine transferred to other stations in the Ross Valley Fire Department, and the paramedics would remain to ensure an adequate response time in medical emergencies. Paramedic services are provided by Ross Valley Paramedic, the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority, by paramedics who in turn operate 2 ambulances, one of which has been stationed in Ross for 40 years, and the other located in Corte Madera. Before proceeding on detailed construction planning, the council requested late last year that the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority enter into a long-term lease for the Ross station to assure the continued presence of the paramedic facility in Ross. The board of the Paramedic Authority decided to conduct a deployment study before acting on Ross's request, and we were led to believe that this would be completed in the March 2024 timeframe. Then the city manager of Larkspur raised the possibility of Larkspur and Corte Madera withdrawing from the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority altogether, a development which, if it were to occur, could threaten the continued existence of the Paramedic Authority itself. With these issues still up in the air and the deadline for closing our fire station looming, last month the council authorized our town manager to send a letter to the Ross Valley Fire Board requesting that the closing of the fire station, Ross Fire Station, be extended for 1 year to allow time to resolve issues concerning future provision of emergency medical services in Ross and other affected communities. The study commissioned by the Paramedic Authority was finally completed in November. On the positive side, the completed study did confirm that Ross remains the best location for the paramedics to be stationed. But the study also highlighted issues relating to the continuing viability of the Paramedic Authority and recommended revising and strengthening the Paramedic Authority's Joint Powers Agreement with Larkspur and Corte Madera committing to remain a part of the authority. Obviously, this is complicated and will take a considerable amount of time to negotiate, with the outcome still uncertain. The Board of the Paramedic Authority meets next on November 21st, and our request for an extension of the deadline for closing the fire station is still pending before the Board of the Ross Valley Fire Department. In other words, and as always, we have our work cut out for us. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and be sure to mark your calendars for the Winterfest on December 7th. And by the way, I should add, I meant to thank Ross Rec and the Ross Auxiliary for the turkey trot. I hear it was a big success. My wife ran it. I was at home checking my emails. I have, it's my hip, it was my hip, okay? All right, thank you. All right. Item 7, council committee and liaison reports. So, council members, Terry.
Okay. The Transportation Authority of Marin met on October 26th. As always, it's a full agenda, so I'll just highlight a few items. On November 6th, the new bike sharing program along the Smart Corridor was launched, starting in Petaluma. Really very successful launch. There was a robust discussion about possible new parking options for the Larkspur Ferry, which has some controversy. TAM is in the very early stages of evaluating Measure A expenditures, which is a half-cent sales tax. This is done every 6 years, this evaluation, to ensure that the plan response to evolving transportation landscapes incorporates an innovation and reflects current priorities. Age-Friendly Ross has scheduled the December breakfast, which we were going to have. Instead, they've changed it to Saturday, July 11th. The breakfast will have a variety of local experts to discuss the challenges of dementia, providing information and resources for individuals and caregivers. Oh, did I say July? Yeah. Oh, that's a long time away. It's actually January. So it's a Saturday. Thank you so much. That's right. February 13th will be the 3rd annual Valentine's Luncheon to celebrate older Ross residents. It'll be held at the Marin Art and Garden Center. The event will include a great lunch, art from Cedars, an a cappella choir from Branson, a guest speaker, and our own Beach Cruel, who will be our master of ceremonies. Publicity for these 2 events will take place shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Matt, Elizabeth? Well, I probably have reported already in the mayor's report on the fire board, which has simply continued the consideration of our letter to the next meeting, and I guess after December 5th, which will be our next regular meeting. And then we also both attended the meeting of the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority, which I summarized. All right, so then we have a presentation. I think the next item actually is a presentation regarding safe routes to school. Chief Pata and David Rice.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Manager, members of council. It's nice to be in front of you again, and I'm happy to be here with Superintendent Rice from the Ross School. This is our check-in for Safe Routes to School, kind of our update on what we've been doing, what we did last year and what we're doing this year, and as we move forward. First of all, the Safe Routes School is not just David and I, the Town Manager, Councilperson Salter, you were there. Okay. And Rich Simonich and the Town Manager. There's many people who've been involved in this worthy and great task force group of people. And it's all about making sure that our kids are able to get to school safe, and that we're addressing traffic concerns and how they get there. So our first meeting was August 12th, and we decided to do it in August this year. It's a switch from years gone by, because we wanted to actually be prepared and talk about some solutions for the coming year. So instead of waiting for half of the school year to go before we meet, we decided, well, let's get together. Dave and I actually came up with the idea to get together and have this meeting ahead of time so that we could plan for the year and come up with some genius ideas on how we can calm traffic around the school. The partnership between the police department and the school with Safe Routes, I think, has been very strong. It's one of my favorite things to do. Most mornings, you'll see that I'm usually out in front of the school. That's so that I can put my eyeballs on some of our riders and some of our walkers, and then immediately report them to Mr. Rice when things aren't going right. And he's been a great partner in helping me reel in some unsafe riders. We're going to continue again this year with the programs that are working, the Pizza with the Police, the rewarding kids that are doing the right thing by riding safely to school and walking safely to school. That seems to really work and resonate with the kids. Jump in anytime you want.
You're doing great.
Thanks. So, and it's good for us. It gets us involved with the kids, and it gets us involved with the teachers. And by virtue of that, we're also getting a message home to the parents. When we can, we participate in the Ride and Walk to School events that is hosted by Safe Routes. Our participation is usually we kind of give them an escort into school. It's kind of fun for everybody to be involved in it.
We had one today. It was Ruby Bridges Day. So everyone in school wore purple to remember Ruby Bridges for her walk to school when she did that historical event. And this year we also were sponsored by AAA. So all the students who walked to school got little beanies and little flyers to hold, and it's pretty cute.
Yeah. I'm going to let our DPW director, Rich Simonich, talk about the amazing work that he's done on Laurel Grove. But we've done as much as we can to support that mission, and it's been spectacular, I think. Every morning I have a little group of riders. We all get together in the morning. Unofficially, we all ride by and say hi to each other every morning. It's really kind of fun as they make their way down the hill. And it's much safer because of Rich and his efforts and the town's efforts. The Winship stop sign area, we've been working that pretty hard. I think we've made some progress on there. I know that we've issued a bunch of citations, not so much to the kids. We're trying to educate the kids, but we've really actually been kind of impacting the drivers, and they're usually, people on their way to work and not paying super attention. So we started with an education campaign for about a month in August, and then we started writing citations, and I think it's been effective. I have to give all the credit here to David, or a lot of the credit to Mr. Rice regarding the e-bikes and what we've done with that, and I'll let him tell you kind of his efforts on that.
The e-bike issue was something that came up for the superintendents all over Marin County. And we were all encouraged to work with our local police departments to figure out how to solve the problems, because each school district and each town is unique in who it serves and who it affects. When that had come down from the county, Chief Potter and I had already been in contact and working on a letter. And that was another big reason for wanting to meet at the beginning of the year. Any new procedures, policies, or anything like that we were going to implement, we thought would be much more effective to start at the beginning of the year than trying to do it mid-year and change behaviors then. So we wrote a letter together. We had both ended up signing it and sending it out to the community with the request that class 2 and 1,
3,
2 and 3 bikes could not be parked on campus during the school day, with the simple rationale being the manufacturers recommend that no one under 16 ride the bikes. With us being a K-8 school, we don't have anybody 16 or older, so it was very simple for us to say these cannot come onto our campus.
Yeah. I'd like to think we were totally successful on that. I'd say we're 95% successful on it. We still have a few ingenious kids that have found workarounds, and we're doing our best to interdict them in a positive way.
And what Chief's not telling you, he's being way too humble about, is the relationship he has with the kids at the school is why when he does show up and he does stop a kid, it is so effective. He does come from a place of education first, second, and third, and then he might get punitive after that. I've never seen that side of you with the kids yet. But that education piece, I think, is huge. And that's why the relationship between the police department and the school is so strong and so easy, is that's the way he leads his department, and all of his officers are the same way.
And finally, with your permission and your help, you allowed us to reduce the speed limit around the schools. And so that is happening, and that's another collaboration with the town manager, with the DPW, and with your permission. And the schools have been very responsive and supportive on that, and I know that that is something that's coming. And I thank you for that, and I'm sure, the parents would thank you as well. That's my report.
I'd like to thank you for the reduction in speed as well. That was something that we put forward, and I think it would be a huge help. The thing for me is I honestly think it's the bicycle commuters, the adults coming through and down Shady that worry me the most in the morning as they head to the ferry. But
Yeah, and I would agree to that. Most of I'm noticing are they're the older kids going to Archie Williams or Redwood, so we step in when we can.
we're a little bit of a pass-through as a town. You're well aware. But bottom line, thank you for all the work that you do, and I appreciate the relationship with the town and the school. It's a good one.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Questions?
Does that conclude the presentation on this item? If so, I'll ask for, open it up for any public comment on this item. Any member of the public wish to be heard on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
There's no raised hands
Right,
online.
great, thank you
Thanks,
then.
Mayor.
Okay, so then we will move on to, pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry, Chief, I'm sorry, and Superintendent Rice, excuse me. I didn't ask if any member of the council had questions. I jumped to public comment, and so let's bring it back to the council. I beg your pardon.
Well, I just have a comment. I think everyone really appreciates your work on the e-bikes because we all see these kids zooming by and we're all worried about their health and our health or our safety and their safety. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Great, yes, ma'am.
And I'm new on the committee, and I know we only met once, but I wanted to make sure that I think something for the year to come is to think about how we can do better markings on the roads, bike lanes, et cetera, to improve the safety in the morning and afternoons for the kids that are biking and walking. And many of us have seen kids, I've seen kids riding their bike on Sir Francis Drake, which is one of the scariest things I've ever seen. So I hope we can take that into the next year on just how we can improve the overall safety of the streets, and whether that's crosswalks, crossing guards, all the things we've talked about, but just continue the work to make sure that kids are safe.
Any other council member have comments or questions? Councilmember McMillan.
I walk my dog a lot on Down Canyon and on Laurel Grove, and I talked to those construction workers who were working on the Safe Routes pathway, and they are so impressed that you are there every morning to greet those kids. They think that that is just the greatest thing. So thank you for being so present in their life. I think it's really making a huge difference.
Thank you.
And I can tell you that they look forward to seeing Chief Pata, because I've been asked before, like, hey, is Chief Pata okay? We didn't see him this morning. I'm like, well, he's not there every single day. Sometimes he has calls that come in, like, he's not there just for you. And they're like, oh, okay.
I just want one question. When are the 15-mile-an-hour signs going to go up?
I have to defer that. There we go.
When was that? I didn't hear.
Mr. Semenich is going to be able to help us with that. He's
Okay,
got the
that's
answer to
really
that.
great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Because I drive past the post office during school time, and there are a lot of people going much faster than that.
And that goes for bikes as well. That's
Yeah.
not just for cars, so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, once again, thank you both very much. Great presentation. Okay, I don't want to jump the gun again, but I think we're now ready for staff and community reports. Town Manager Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. Good evening. Just a couple of things to report. First, I wanted to add on to the mayor's thanks to all the sponsors, the participants, the volunteers, town staff for their contribution towards the success of the 2024 Ross Turkey Trot. And darn it, I was going to bring my award. I'm a winner. I have an award. It was for best costume. My sister came and we dressed up, and we actually didn't have that much competition, but it was really fun. And it's really fun to be a winner, and I have it, and maybe I'll bring it next time. But So it was held last Sunday. There were 273 registered participants and over 30 volunteers from the middle school and the high school. I mean, the volunteers really rocked. It was a community-focused event. It had a 1-mile family fun run, a 5K road race, 10K road/trail race, and a kids zone with a bounce house, crafts, and a toddler dash on the Ross Common. That was the cutest. Prizes were awarded to the male and female victors of the 5K and 10K, and trophies were given out to the best costumes in all 3 sub-events. Yes, I did the 5K. In the words of one of our participants, it was a perfect way to kick off the holiday season. So just big credit to our recreation department staff. And then it was really the original, I think the idea was started last year with the Ross Auxiliary and some other families in town. So it's super fun. I wanted to note that just this past Tuesday afternoon, our management team and I and a few key employees such as Zach Baker participated in a tabletop exercise designed specifically for Ross by Chief Pata and the County of Marin's Office of Emergency Management. It was extremely beneficial for our staff to walk through a flooding scenario. And how our staff would work with our partner agencies to respond step by step. So, we certainly have a lot of follow-up to do. We have a lot more training to do, but it was a really good step in the right direction. So big thanks to Chief Pata and to our staff and especially to Stephen Torrance, of the Director of the Office of Emergency Management. You met him he was at our council meeting, I think, in August timeframe, and his team for putting this together specifically for the town of Ross. So we did that Tuesday afternoon. And then now I'm going to turn my report over to our Public Works Director, Richard Simonich, who will report on the Laurel Grove pathway. He can answer Councilmember Dowling's questions about the speed limit signs and also talking a little bit more about the work that's being done on and in the vicinity of Sir Francis Drake. Okay, thank you, Rich.
Yes, thank you, Town Manager, Mayor, and council members. Rich Simonich, Public Works Director. Yeah, for a little quick update on traffic safety on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard and Laurel Grove and a couple of the intersections in that area. So you may recall earlier this year, we, at the direction of the council, wanted to look into a traffic signal at the intersection of Winship and Sir Francis Drake. We did have a traffic consultant perform a traffic signal warrant study to see if a signal at that location was warranted. That study did come back saying that a signal is not warranted for several reasons at that location, but it did offer some recommendations for safety measures on Sir Francis Drake in lieu of a traffic signal. Those recommendations included some tree trimming, improved signage and pavement markings, and periodic traffic monitoring. So to that effect, so the tree trimming, and this is what we've done so far in 2024, maybe what we propose to do in this year and the coming fiscal year. So we have trimmed back that large honey locust at the intersection of Winship and Sir Francis Drake. That opened up a nice line of sight at that location, looking down eastbound Sir Francis Drake. And then we, Public Works crew, trimmed that oak tree that was obscuring the turn direction sign that is located in between El Camino Bueno and Winship. So we've made that sign more visible, and we want to add a slow warning sign at that location as well, similar to what we have on eastbound Sir Francis Drake coming off of Bolinas heading towards the bridge there. We also want to add additional 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on westbound Sir Francis Drake. So that's Sir Francis Drake headed from Kentfield into San Anselmo. And an intersection T sign coming up to notify drivers that the Winship Avenue is coming up at the approach before you take that turn near the bridge. And it looks like we need a complete restoration of the center line double yellow on Sir Francis Drake for a good length of Sir Francis Drake, El Camino Bueno and eastward, all the way to Winship Avenue, the Winship Avenue-Winship Bridge intersection. That center line double stripe has deteriorated. The reflectors have all either been pushed down into the pavement or completely destroyed. So that, I'd like to propose that at the budget discussions that are coming up for the next year, because that's going to be a large capital project to repave Sir Francis Drake and restore the striping, maybe add some new elements, a great topic for discussion, and we want to add some more signs and speed limit signs and the speed limit markers on the pavement. So we will be introducing a project. I'll be getting some cost estimates, and we'll have that introduced to council for the upcoming budget hearings. We've also began reprogramming the traffic controller. It's being updated at Bolinas and Sir Francis Drake Boulevard to allow a lead pedestrian interval to be introduced for pedestrians crossing at that intersection, to give the pedestrians a chance to get into the intersection, become more visible before the lights change and the cars come in on that conflicting right turn off of Bolinas onto eastbound Sir Francis Drake. So that is currently in the process with our technical consultant on that. Periodic traffic monitoring. So we recently obtained an updated speed survey confirmation letter from a traffic consultant, and that's going to allow the police department to have a updated document to bring to the courts to enforce the radar enforcement on Sir Francis Drake for the current 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. So police department, we're very happy to receive that updated document. I think it needs to be updated every 5 years, and that was due to happen. So then moving on to the 15-mile-per-hour signs on Lagunitas, and they're also going to be going on Fernhill for Branson. We've ordered those signs, and we've also ordered the slow turn sign for Sir Francis Drake. So those are in the process of, when we get those, we'll install those as well. We need to add a new sign on Fernhill coming down the hill because there's no speed limit sign there. So we'll put a new 15-mile-per-hour sign on Fernhill coming down the hill and replace the 25-mile-per-hour signs at the 2 locations on Lagunitas and then the 1 location on Fernhill. So that's coming up within the next month. Regarding the Laurel Grove Safe Pathway Project, so today, as many of you know, is National Walk to School Day was this morning, and as I came into work, there was a lot of kids and parents lining up on the new pathway, which was open for the public use last week. The project still has few elements to be completed, the traffic lane striping and the patterned concrete safe havens still need to be completed on that, but the project is, after probably two months longer than I expected it to happen, but it finally is happening. It was great to see all the kids participating in the National Walk to School Day. So people came up to me and said, "Oh, you're wearing purple for the Gal Bridges or whatever." I had no idea. I put the shirt on because I have no other shirts in my wardrobe. I just wore this one a lot. So that was kind of, I don't normally wear this shirt, but yeah. I like it. Yeah. It was serendipitous, I guess is the word for it. So that concludes my report on traffic safety, and I can take any questions that you might have.
Great. Council questions, comments? Matt?
So Rich, thank you for all that work, and I'm so happy to see the progress for Bolinas and your recommendations on Winship. I think we're all aware that somebody died from a traffic fatality in town in Winship Park yesterday, I think. So I would love for, and of course we can take this to the Public Works Subcommittee, but just maybe reevaluating or looking around town at ways that we can improve, crosswalks, markings, lighting, et cetera, because it is, I believe this is a wake-up call that, we like our roads. We like that we have a dark town, but we also need to make sure people feel safe and aren't, if we can improve the way that cars are interacting with pedestrians, we should try to do that. So if you wouldn't mind, it's something maybe we do next year, or just thinking through the Sir Francis Drake project you're thinking through, but other areas that you might flag at future points that we could try to improve safety, including bikes.
Any other council questions?
Thank you, Rich, for all this work on the safe pathways. It's wonderful.
Thank you, council.
And yeah, we've been working on that for a long time. There's a sign as you're heading east, after you get off Bolinas, you're heading east on Sir Francis Drake that shows your speed limit. And I was wondering if maybe a similar sign could be on Sir Francis Drake as you're driving west, maybe between Camino Bueno and the first Winship, because people are going, they see me sitting there and they just floor it, right? So it might be helpful to remind them of what their speed limit is. So maybe you could put that into your work in the budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
No raised hands online.
All right. Well, if there's no further questions or discussion, let's move on to the next item then, which will be, I believe, wait, did we do RPOA? Did I skip
No,
it?
it's the RPOA report.
Yes, I'm sorry, that is 9B, so Ross Property Owners Association. Anyone present here or on Zoom for RPOA? Anyone? I guess there was no meeting, actually, because of Veterans Day.
Yeah, actually,
So-
there was a dinner on
Oh, the
Tuesday.
dinner.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it was-
that's right. I got the email right from Jeff. Okay. So then we will go to the consent agenda. So this is an agenda including items A through F, which will all be voted on as pursuant to a single motion to approve the consent items unless anyone on the council or any member of the public wishes to have a particular item removed for separate discussion. So let me ask, does any member of the council wish to have any item removed? And does any member of the public wish to
No
have an
raised
item
hands
removed?
online.
No one online and no one present here? All right. Then a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling,
Aye.
Mayor Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Salter,
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins.
Yes.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Right, next item is item 11, public hearings on planning projects, 160 Lagunitas Road, design review and town council adoption of resolution number 2437, approving the project subject to conditions. Alex?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, the homeowner at 160 Lagunitas is requesting approval for design review. The lot is currently under construction to build a new 2-story home and will include a detached garage and a pool. Tonight, though, the homeowner is proposing a new sports court with a 10-foot-high glass wall and a thin steel frame. The new sports court surface will be made of artificial turf, and the sports court is set to be in the front yard of the property and will be screened from the road. It will also be extremely surrounded by hedges on all sides. On October 15, 2024, the ADR group supported the design of the project as drawn and highlighted that the court's permeable surface is a significant benefit. Staff requests that the town council adopts resolution 2437 approving design review. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions of staff at this time? If not, then we'll hear from the applicant, either the applicant or the owner or the representative. Thank you. 15 minutes.
Can I turn this on? Hello, my name is Steven Sudra. I'm the architect for this project.
Would you like a presentation at this time, or should I just make myself available for questions?
I'm guessing probably just available for questions, but is that
okay.
all right? Yes, that's fine. I think we've all been to the project and we understand what it is, but you know, if there is any other comment, you have the opportunity for a rebuttal. So that said, are there any questions of the applicant at this time? All right, then let's open it for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this project? All right, not seeing anyone in the room. Anyone on Zoom?
There's no raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay. Well, then I don't think there's anything to rebut, but let's, if there are no council questions, we'll bring it back to the council.
I move we approve Resolution 2437.
I second that.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan? Aye. Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. The next item is item 12. Finance Subcommittee recommends the Town Council authorize the Town Manager to retain Aaron Bonk, Vice President, Time Value Investments, as an investment advisor that is experienced in public agency treasury management in California.
Okay. One moment, sir. Let's see. Okay, here he is. Great. This item, good evening, Mayor and Council. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of Mayor Pro Tem McMillan and Councilmember Salter. The Town of Ross investment program is governed by its investment policy, which is reviewed and adopted by the Town Council annually. You can find that on the town website and also as part of your agenda packet. The adopted investment policy states that the town's funds shall be invested in compliance with all applicable town municipal codes, California state statutes, and federal regulations, and in a manner designed to accomplish the following objectives, which are listed in priority order. 1, preservation of capital and protection of investment principal. 2, maintenance of sufficient liquidity to meet anticipated cash flows. 3, attainment of a market rate of return taking into account investment risk constraints, diversification, and cash flow characteristics of the portfolio. The management oversight responsibility for the town's investment program is delegated annually by the town council to the town manager. For many years, the town's investment portfolio has been primarily invested in the local agency investment fund that is managed by the state California controller. While these investments have met the council-adopted investment policy's objectives that I just stated, and have required a modest amount of staff time to manage, there may be an opportunity to achieve higher investment returns with the assistance of an experienced investment advisor. During the June 28, 2024 Finance Subcommittee meeting, the idea of retaining an investment professional experienced in public agency treasury management in California was discussed. On August 5th of 2024, the Finance Subcommittee received presentations from 2 firms regarding the investment services they could provide to the town of Ross. The subcommittee agreed that Mr. Aaron Bonk of Time Value Investments would best serve the town's investment advisory needs. Mr. Bonk is participating in the meeting tonight via Zoom, and I'd like to turn this over to him now. He can provide you with information about his company, his experience, how his compensation is earned as an investment advisor to the town, amongst other topics. And finally, the Finance Subcommittee recommends that the Town Council authorize the town manager to retain him as an investment advisor that is experienced in public agents treasury management in California. So I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. And Aaron, do you pronounce your name Mr. Bonk?
Yeah, you nailed it. Most people don't get that on the first try, so I'm impressed.
That is an awesome last name. I love it. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm glad that we can hear you and see you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Krista, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. So just to give you some background on our firm, we are based in Seattle, but we work with public entities all throughout the Western states, over 400 total. Behind Washington is our largest client base being based here, but California is our second largest client base. I believe at this point we work with over 100 public entities in California, a number of the entities in your area as well, Town of Corte Madera, City of Larkspur, City of Sebastopol, City of Willits, City of Daly City, just on the other side of the bridge. Those are all clients of myself personally. And then if you expand it out to my colleagues here at the firm, we have other folks in that area and scattered all throughout the state as well. So our firm has been in business since 2010. I've been with Time Value Investments since 2013, just hit my 11-year mark earlier this year, working with so I've been working with public entities all throughout that period. And our focus is really very specific to public entities. We do have a small number of private corporations or banks and credit unions that we work with, but I would say about 98% of our client base is public entities of various kinds, cities, counties, special districts. They really run the gamut. And within each state that we work, we strive to know in intimate detail the rules and regulations around what's allowable, what you can and can't do per state code. And then beyond that, though, what's common, what's typical, what are these standard types of investments and the standard way that this is done that is within the industry. And a lot of those guidelines are set down by GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, a national organization that puts out a lot of rules of thumb and standards and things to meet. So we align with those. We apply those to the rules of whichever state we're working in. And again, I've been working with public entities in California. The firm has for even preceding my time. So for coming up on almost 15 years here. So we're very involved in and intimately aware of the rules down there, travel down there very frequently for conferences for public entity finance officials in California. A couple of those organizations are CSMFO and CMTA that we regularly attend their annual conferences, present sessions there, things like that. So that's a bit of the background on the firm. Again, I myself been here now for 11 years. In addition to having the relevant licenses that I need to provide investments to public entities in California, I also do hold the Chartered Financial Analyst designation from the CFA Institute. So just that's something I elected to get in addition to the just standard licensing through FINRA, our regulator, that you have to get as well. And just to give to add on to what Krista mentioned, the priorities for pretty much every public entity, what she stated in the investment policy that the town has, very standard across the board. Safety is the number one priority, liquidity is second, and yield important, but third in the pecking order there. And the investments that we recommend and provide seek to meet those standards and do meet those standards that are set out, again, in the town's policy and that are very standard in the industry. The main types of investments we provide are U.S. government bonds and federally insured CDs. So these investment types have a very high level of safety and within the realm of what public entities can purchase investment-wise, which is typically fixed income products, so bonds and CDs of various types. There's nothing stock market related or connected that can be done. The state does have a pretty narrow set of rules and regulations around the types of investments you can even invest in. So again, emphasizing that safety. But even within the universe of what's allowable, we tend to recommend and skew very close to that very safe end of the spectrum, where there's not really going to be a worry about risking losing funds, knowing that we work with public entities, knowing that this is public money, and that this is citizen and taxpayer dollars that the town is entrusted with, and that the entities that work with us that entrust us to help provide them advice and guidance on what to do. We really focus on maintaining that high level of safety. Also working with staff, so I would work with Krista to make sure all liquidity needs are met, and then ensuring also too that even the investments that we provide and offer do have liquidity, and you're able to access those funds if something comes up unexpectedly that wasn't planned for or wasn't in any cash flow analysis that was done. And then in terms of yield, we seek to, within that safer end of the spectrum, find the highest yielding options that can offer the town the best rate of return, and to help provide some certainty and balance out some of the ups and downs that the local agency investment fund, or the LAIF, where the town has primarily kept its money, very safe place. You know, the state does a very good job managing LAIF, but its interest rate, the yield that the town earns on that, will fluctuate over time as interest rates in the market move. You know, in not quite real time, but in pretty short order, wherever interest rates in the market move, that is where LAIF will go as well. Interest rates have been falling recently, a little uptick in the last couple months, but, you know, zooming out to the last 18 months or so, we've seen interest rates moving down. LAIF will likely start moving down here as well. And the products that we offer can help the town lock in a fixed set rate of return that you can earn over a period of time, regardless of where interest rates in the market move. So the investments we provide are really meant to help diversify and balance out the risk that's in LAIF, which is not necessarily risk of loss, but just risk that the interest rate you're earning can change very quickly at any given time. Having a longer term portfolio can help balance out that risk of the LAIF's yield changing and the interest earnings to the town dropping. Having a longer term portfolio again helps balance out that risk and diversify that risk, that we could see that happen. And the last thing I'll touch on is compensation. So of course you're going to want to know, how is the town paying for our services? What do you get for what you're paying for us? The relationship that I think would make the most sense, just given the size of the town and the potential portfolio, would be for us to work with the town in a brokerage capacity. So in a brokerage relationship between a firm like ours and the town of Ross, there would be no set ongoing fee that you're paying. Our services and our compensation would be transactional. So we would have our compensation built into the purchase price and factored into the yield of any bond or any CD that we offer. And that's the most common type of you know, among our client base. The vast majority of our clients work with us on a brokerage basis and have this same setup. So the way that it works is, anytime I'm showing, you know, if we got to the point where we were working with the town and I was working with Krista on purchasing investments, I'd show her, say, a treasury bond, another government bond, a CD, whatever yield, whatever rate of return we're showing on that security that we're showing to the town would already include our compensation built into the price. So if you see a 2-year CD at 4.5%, if the town buys that CD from us, you know that we have some profit built into that, but that's the yield that you'll buy it at, and that is the rate of return you'll earn. There are no ongoing fees or costs that get thrown the town's way on a regular basis. So once the town purchases the security from us, it belongs to the town, and there's no ongoing obligation financially beyond that. Now, that does not, just because we're not charging an ongoing fee, doesn't mean that there are no other services that we provide. I stay very hands-on with all my clients, especially those that need it, and someone in Krista's position, where there's not a big finance staff that's doing this like some other cities or towns have. So I tend to be as hands-on as a client needs in between, you know, even if there's no activity going on, if there's no, you know, fees being charged, no commissions being generated. You know, our goal is to provide the highest level of service that our clients need from us. So we provide reporting free of charge to our clients. So reports that Krista would be able to present to you all to give you an overview, and further, you know, you can drill down even and look in more detail on those reports at the status of the portfolio. I regularly attend and present at meetings like these to give updates on the portfolio, and you know, again, providing whatever service, you know, and answering questions, providing any information that Krista or anyone else at the city would need or would have in the case of questions on an ongoing basis. And so, yeah, I think that was pretty much everything I had to cover. So I'm happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And that's the end of our report.
Any member of the council have questions? Councilmember McMillan.
Hi, Aaron. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, so we met before.
Yes, yeah.
I just wondered if simplistically you could do a comp of the LAIF return versus some of the investments, the CDs, minus your firm's compensation, to underscore why it's prudent to put some money into these non-LAIF vehicles.
Of course, yeah, and I do have a graph here that I think can help show that. You know, it's hard to do any
I know.
specific comparison, but I think this graph will hopefully help just illustrate really what a portfolio like we would propose for a portion of the city's funds would be doing. Because again, you know, this wouldn't be take all your money out of LAIF and invest it through us. We usually focus on, you know, the portion of funds that are there, that are core funds that have been there for a while, you're not expecting to use in the near term. So let me share my screen. Oh, I need to request, I think, to share my screen here. There we go. Okay. So this is a graph I've used before, and so this isn't a you know, perfectly scientific look at what the town will earn going forward, because that will depend on when the town invests and where interest rates are at that point. But what this graph looks at.
Aaron?
Oh yes, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Krista. Do you have the ability to zoom in a little bit?
Yes, of
it's
course.
hard for us to see.
Yes.
Or yeah, just the graph.
Yeah, because I mean, the graph is really all I'm intending to show here anyway. So yeah, is that looking better, or I can zoom in a
Is that a
little
tiny
further?
bit better, everybody? A little bit. We can't see it all, so you might want to, but
Oh, is it not
better
the
than
whole?
before. So thank you.
Okay.
If you
Yeah,
could just maybe be descriptive for us.
yes, of course. Yeah. So what this graph is showing is the blue line is the yield on LAIF over time. And so this rate will fluctuate up and down. And really what that blue line will follow is the Federal Reserve and the short-term interest rate that they set and control. So whenever you hear news headlines about the Federal Reserve raising rates or cutting rates, as they've been doing recently, really what is meant by that are short-term interest rates, and LAIF specifically will track off of those. And so that's why that blue line rises and falls over time. And so you can see, you know, it can go from near zero. It was up at about 2.5% in 2019, dropped down to zero again during the pandemic, and in the years immediately after. It shot up recently due to the Fed raising rates aggressively to fight inflation in 2022 and 2023. And then has leveled off since then. And so the orange line shows a portfolio with, and this is just using treasury bonds because that's the easiest thing I can go pull historical rates for. If CDs are included in the portfolio, that orange line would likely be a bit higher because CDs often provide a higher yield than a treasury bond would. But that orange line is showing a laddered treasury bond portfolio with regular maturities every 6 months. So you have a 6-month treasury, a 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 years, et cetera, all the way out to 5 years. That's the maximum maturity that, and so evenly spaced treasury bonds out to that range. And so you can see, you know, the portfolio line, you know, increases as rates are rising, you know, starts to go down a little bit as rates fall, but the swings are not nearly as extreme as what you see in the yield in LAIF. So really what we're seeking with that orange line is to balance out the more extreme swings that LAIF will undergo, because the state treasurer's office, their goal with LAIF is to provide liquidity. That's the main thing it's there for. The fact that it earns a rate of return is kind of secondary to the fact that they're providing you same day or next day liquidity in that fund. So it has to stay very short term, and that's why it's so strongly impacted by Federal Reserve policy. And so this is looking at, you know, 2015 through, this runs through July of 2024. And then I can move over here and show, so this is showing what this table here shows is the interest. So this is the yield on LAIF, yield on the portfolio. And this is assuming a $10 million portfolio. What are LAIF in the portfolio earning each month and totaling over that 10-year period? So this is the LAIF column here, was a little over 17 million. This longer term portfolio, had it started in January of 2015, earned about 18.5 million. So almost a 1.5 million difference in interest over that time, even with this period of time where LAIF has been, you know, well above where that portfolio's yield is for the last couple of years. You know, even with that, a portfolio that again, that's a bit of an arbitrary starting point. It's, you know, basically almost 10 years. You know, by the end of this year, that'll have been a 10-year period. And that also doesn't take into account the compounding of interest on those interest payments as well, which would actually likely only push the portfolio's outperformance even higher if we factored that in. So this is a relatively simplistic view of it, but I think this is kind of the best way to show the value of what a portfolio like this brings is there very well will be times where the rate you're earning on your cash balance is going to beat your portfolio. That happens regularly to all of our clients, but it is typically very much outweighed by those periods where the portfolio is well above where LAIF is. Now, there's no guarantee this is exactly how everything will go going forward, but just this historical look back, I think here helps show the value of what having a portion of the funds invested out longer term can do to balance out what you see with
And
LAIF.
Aaron, does the orange line and the chart that you show, does that take into account the fees that your firm is charging?
Yes. Yeah. These would be yields earned on these bonds net of what we would have kept as our compensation on these purchases. Yes.
And so in terms of the money that the town has that you would contemplate investing in this kind of vehicle, it's more things that we don't need immediately, like all the stuff that's parked in our capital account for the building, stuff like that?
Exactly. Yes. So that's typically part of what I do when I begin working with a client who does not already have investments. The first thing we're going to do up front is look at those cash balances, look at where they've been over time, and isolate those funds that have just been there, year after year consistently, that you've never had to dip into and that you don't expect to dip into going forward. That's part of this process up front is I would work with Krista to identify those funds that she and staff feel comfortable you're not expected to need in the future. The way these portfolios are structured, though, we're also making sure that there are regular maturities coming in so that if something does come up and you do need to pull money out, we're never that far away from a maturity, or we have something very short term. If, heaven forbid, we had to sell something early, which you can do with any of the securities that we offer if you need to get that money back. We structure the portfolio to help minimize any chance you could potentially lose money if you did have to sell a security early, because that is the one area where there can be a potential risk of loss, is if you buy a long-term security and you need to sell it before maturity. Depending on market conditions from when you bought it to when you're selling it, it's possible you could have to sell it for less than you paid for it.
I have one last question.
Yes.
Is there a statutory limit as to how much money we can invest in this kind of a vehicle, or could we put everything in this?
Great question. So there is a 30% limitation on the CDs. So I believe that the city has, about 20 million or so all in right now. So per that statutory limitation, you could do up to 6 million of the total funds in CDs. Treasury and other government bonds, no limitation. In theory, you could invest every single dollar you have into those. So there's no, limitation on the government bond side of things.
And Mayor, I'd like to add, so the quarterly investment report was on your consent calendar this evening. And yes, it does give a $20 million figure of what the funds that we have now. But for example, the council set up an emergency fund in the 90s of $1.5 million that is, my understanding, has never been touched. That's a prime thing for us to work with Aaron and his company on investing. However, alternatively, we have $2 million in an account that is deposits from our property owners on their projects. They could all finish their projects tomorrow and we have to pay it back. So we need to make sure that that money is available to pay them back within a couple of days of their project being finalized. So those are just two examples. And so that work with Aaron to look at cash flow and what we can and cannot spend or cannot invest right away is going to be important. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Aaron, what is your commission or markup? What is that?
Yeah, so it'll be on government bonds. It's typically anywhere from 5 to 10 basis points. So say there's a 2-year treasury on the market at 4.5%. We would typically be providing that at something like 4.4 to 4.45%. So that would be the reduction in yield, but the yield that we would show to the city would already include that. So it's not like you'd have to, look at the numbers and subtract that out and figure out what it is. Any security that we recommend and then end up selling to the town would already have that factored in. But what's going on behind the scenes is, typically anywhere from 5 to 10 basis points.
And is that contracted?
No, that's at our discretion. It will typically depend on the amount being invested, the length of time it's being invested for. So what that amount is varies case by case. In the case of CDs, that is a bit separate, where those commissions are set by the banks that are offering them. So, they basically tell us, hey, if your client wants 249,000 of this CD, we'll give it to you for 248,000. In the case of those, the bank sets it. We have no control over that. But what we're showing it again to the town at would be your net yield that you're earning. There would not have to be any, reduction done after the fact to figure out your net yield.
Okay, and then do you also invest in CDARS or only in CDs?
So the CDs that we do are a little bit different from CDARS, where CDARS is you give your money to a bank and they go spread it across a bunch of different banks that they have relationships with. What we do isn't too dissimilar, but it's just a different universe of it's kind of functions the same way, where, as long as there are CD options that provide a better yield than a government bond, we'll spread whatever funds we can across the CDs that are there to make sure we keep everything under the FDIC insurance limit. So it does end up functioning somewhat similarly. I don't really know exactly how banks execute that program, but from a broad sense, what we're doing is relatively similar to a CDARS program.
Okay, but we actually own the CD in the bank.
Yes, in this case, yeah, it's not like the bank.
Okay.
The bank is that intermediary. In this case, we are the intermediary, but you're buying the CDs from us, and they belong to the town.
Okay.
They're in your investment account. You're not relying on us for control. We're not automatically reinvesting anything that matures. Everything is done at the town's discretion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm thinking.
Oh, no. My question is, so Aaron, if were we to retain you, we're just kind of giving you and Krista the discretion to figure out all of this, or do you come back with a proposal and we have to reconsider it? We're delegating to you and Aaron going forward.
Right. Well, technically, the authority has already been delegated annually in your investment policy to the town manager. I've brought this to you tonight because it's different than what's been done here for many years, and I wanted to have the opportunity for the whole council to discuss it and be comfortable with it. So I think that I think that some of the council is eager to move forward, and I'd like to, if the council wants to move forward tonight, I'd like to start working with Aaron and come up with a certain amount. I'm happy to come up with a certain amount and bring it to the finance subcommittee. If you'd like to do that, I'm certainly not opposed to that. Or we could also start it off and then do a check-in twice a year, where we could ask Aaron to present to the finance subcommittee too.
Yeah, the check-in sounds good. I don't personally want to be micromanaging this. I want to let you and Aaron have as much discretion as is reasonable and prudent. But we just kind of need to keep apprised of what's going on too at the same time.
Certainly.
And I'll say, just from my point of view on that, typically the way it works is I will work with, in this case, Krista, or, someone in a similar position at a town where that is a client of ours, where we'll be making, I would work with Krista to make the day-to-day decisions, making investment purchases, because the one complicating factor is if we were to say come to council or even the finance subcommittee for the kind of more day-to-day investment decision making, that can sometimes limit opportunities that are available, because CDs or bonds that are there on one day can be gone the next, or interest rates can change in a short period of time as well. So the way that the vast majority of our clients do it is they will delegate that authority to staff to kind of oversee the day-to-day, and then with say quarterly or semi-annual check-ins, presentations, overviews of what's been happening, what the activity has been, where the funds are invested at any given time. And again, on a regular basis, I'm more than happy to attend any meeting to assist with that and provide reports, oversight on that as well.
I have a question, and if you've already answered this, I apologize, but do I understand that this is essentially a discretionary account that your firm would control which instruments to buy and the timing in a laddering fashion or whatever you think is best, with the town simply directing you as to what our needs might be? Or is this a situation where you would say, call Krista and say, hey, I've got a great bond, what do you think? Because
That's
I
a great
used to do
question,
that
and-
as a trustee for 20 years, and I'll tell you, that's a lot for somebody to decide. I mean, these were government bonds, that I was buying, but the laddering was recommended by the broker. But so is it discretionary then?
That's a great question, and I actually didn't mention that, but this would be a non-discretionary relationship. That's for the most part, the industry standard for public entities is to work with any broker or investment advisor on a non-discretionary basis, just given the nature of the funds. And really what that comes down to for the clients that I work with on a discretionary basis is I will come to them with recommendations, when they have funds available to invest. And it's just, giving me the green light, the thumbs up that yes, that works, or, oh no, I'd like to see these other options instead. But yes, we would not make any decision or invest or reinvest any maturing funds without express consent from Krista or any other staff that are authorized. So there would be no discretion on our end on this, correct?
And how often do you anticipate you would be contacting Krista for authorization? I mean, is this every week or is it
No,
month?
typically not. Typically for most of my clients, not even every month. We may again, some of that will vary depending on how we recommend structuring the portfolio, how regular the maturities. But typically most of my clients, I talk to them at most once a quarter, maybe once every 6 months, or in some cases I have clients who have smaller portfolios where I only talk to them maybe once a year when they have some activity. So it is definitely not and that's a big part too of what we do, and knowing that the folks we work with are typically running their city, and this is a small part of their day-to-day operations and what they're doing. We try to make sure that what the portfolio we're building out and the activity in the portfolio reflect the time that they have available to commit to this as well. So that is usually part of the initial planning process of building out the portfolio structure. And what we recommend is that's definitely going to be taken into account to that, to make sure this is not something that is just so constant that it pulls Krista away from everything else she has to do on a regular basis.
Okay, thanks. And then you also stated that, I believe you said you recommended this be done on a commission basis because that would be the most economical from our standpoint. Again, if I'm mischaracterizing what you said, I apologize, but I think that's what I took from what you said. Now, what would the alternatives be? A percentage of funds under management or some other sort of fixed fee?
Yeah, that would be the typically the other way is if the town hired us as an official investment advisor. Under that relationship, that's a bit more official. There's a contract in place because there's going to be a set fee, agreed upon. Typically, yes, a percentage of funds invested. The way that we would likely structure this portfolio, though, again, just given what I just spoke to, there probably would not be regular enough activity to where having us as an advisor would make sense. And also the portfolio is likely going to be relatively straightforward and not a lot of complex products where you would maybe need more, hands-on work from an advisor to be recommending, say, corporate bonds or something like that, where there's credit research being done before recommendations are made, things like that. I think given that we would likely be skewing towards the very safe end of the spectrum and the way that we would structure this, I think a brokerage relationship tends to make more sense in those cases. But I will say too that the fee we would likely charge if we were to go the investment advisor route is, would probably be something like 10 basis points. So it would be pretty comparable to what we keep as commission on any security that we provide. So there's really not a huge difference in cost between the two, and the level of service that I provide my brokerage clients is pretty much exactly the same as what I do for my investment advisory clients. There's really not, it's not like going the advisor route and agreeing to that fee gets you access to a higher level of service than what we provide to our brokerage clients. We strive to provide the same level of service to all of our clients, irrespective of portfolio size, compensation setup, any of that.
And when you make recommendations about investments or purchases, let's say, you're exercising some judgment about what your firm thinks will happen with interest rates and the economy, I assume.
Yes, we certainly factor that in. I mean, that's so I actually produce and send out our firm's monthly market report that we send out to all of our clients. And then I do a monthly webinar that walks through that more in depth. So yeah, I mean, we stay very in tune with where things are at in the market, where it looks like interest rates might be headed. We factor that into our recommendations. In beyond just looking at what's available on any given day, we look at, for example, when it became clear the Fed was going to start raising interest rates in 2022, we started recommending shorter term maturities to our clients so that they would have their portfolio turning over as interest rates rose to realize those higher rates sooner. In periods of time where it looks like interest rates are headed down, we'll typically recommend extending out maturities, locking in rates for a longer period of time to offset that risk that rates drop. So we certainly do make recommendations like that regularly, taking into account market conditions and the outlook for where it looks like things might be headed.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a comment, not a question.
Let's see, we're at the stage where council questions, I guess we'll open it for public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the council. Terry, maybe that would be a good time for a comment and discussion. Any public comment on this? Anyone online?
No raised hands online.
And we'll close public comment, bring it back to the council. Town Manager Johnson, yes.
Thank you. I realize, I think I've made I think I'd like to have an important clarification in the recommendation, because the recommendation says, the Finance Subcommittee recommends the Town Council authorize the Town Manager to retain Aaron Bonk as an investment advisor. And I think that now that we've heard Aaron speak, I don't think that's really reflective of what the relationship is. And so I'd like to, there's not a resolution or anything in here, but in your motion, change that investment advisor, Aaron, what should it be? To retain Aaron Bonk Time Value Investments as a brokerage advisor?
Investment broker, or yeah,
investment broker?
Yeah, that would be
I
a
think
term.
the motion would be authorizing the town to transact investment activity with TVI as our broker. Basically, we're just transacting, making the transactions with TVI.
Yeah. I think it might be easiest just to change the word advisor to broker.
Sure, that's fine. We're just not, there's no retainer that's going to be signed. That's.
So, well, wait, so the firm is the firm a broker-dealer, or does it work with a broker-dealer?
Yes.
The broker-dealer? Okay. And it also provides investment advisory services?
Yes, we do.
Someone
both.
has a license for?
Yes, yeah.
investment
I am licensed to both provide investment advisory services and brokerage services, yes.
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right, so we didn't, I think we didn't have any public comment, so discussion.
Okay, I think it makes sense to try something new. I think it makes sense to retain Time Value Investments as the investment broker. Is that the correct wording? Okay. I would actually like to see, though, an annual review. I would like to see, after a 12-month period, or it could be less than that, 6-month, 12-month, a review. And maybe this is something that the Finance Subcommittee could actually take on and provide that review to the Town Council, working with Aaron and working with Krista.
And may I add, through the mayor, that you will still be receiving a quarterly investment report on the council agenda. That's not going to change, but instead of just having LAIF there would be LAIF and our other investments.
Right. I was thinking that the review would be
Of the
not just-
performance of his firm, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, especially in the startup period. I think it makes sense, and I think the Finance Committee would be happy to take that on, and then it could be included in the investment report. maybe in the 6-month and an annual check-in, and then after that, everyone will have confidence in what we're doing, and it will become unnecessary, assuming.
So do we need a motion to authorize the town to do this? So I move that we authorize the town manager to retain Aaron Bonk as an investment broker.
I'll second.
Pro Tem McMillan. Aye. Councilmember Darling.
Aye.
Mayor Kircher.
Aye.
Councilmember Salter.
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins.
Yes.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Town Manager, for bringing that item to us.
Yeah, I'm sorry for all the questions. I just, this is what I used to do, and half my life was passing before me, and I'm thinking, what was that firm that failed, or who was the clearing broker? Because I was always before the Securities Exchange Commission, the NASD, FINRA, and I can't remember any of it. So over to you, Krista. Thank you.
No, I'm glad, and I'm game.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying. Is that where we are? Okay. We are at item 13, safety cameras. Chief Pata.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. I keep saying good morning. This is the way things are. I know, it's the way things are going, man. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and town manager. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this before you. My staff report has made it to you ahead of tonight, but this is for consideration of public safety camera installations in town. Basically a conversation tonight about what they are and some of our proposed ideas for this. But before we get into it, I'm going to try to not make it too brainy, because it can get super detailed. I do have Kristen McLeod from a automated license plate reader company on Zoom with us tonight. Hello, Kristen.
Evening.
She'll be providing kind of the 10,000-foot level about the nuts and bolts of how these things work. And she's been a great help to me in preparing my report. So just to kind of bring us up to speed as to kind of what this is and how we got here. Automated license plate readers have been around since 1976. They first started in the United Kingdom, and they became popular in the United States in the mid-2000s. Many agencies in Marin today have public safety cameras, and they've taken on a kind of different iterations over the years. I was involved in a public safety camera system in Santa Fe when it first, again in that early 2000s, and now here I am again looking at them, and it's much different than it was. To prepare for this, I started making phone calls. Actually, the town manager and I had this conversation just after our budget hearings or when we were talking about the budget in April, and we were trying to find a way to make this happen. And then from there, she authorized me to make some phone calls and look into it, which I did. And my first phone call was made in June to a company called Flock that is proliferating throughout Marin County and the state. And that was kind of like our first date to find out what their system is and what they have to offer. And then, of course, in July, we had an armed robbery in town, which made this even more interesting for us to investigate. So in that time, I've been gathering data and talking to my peers in the county and looking at the systems and trying to find something that I think would benefit us. This kind of technology is kind of you'll hear from Kristen, it really is a force multiplier. I liken it to like the security guard who, becomes aware of something that happens around the perimeter and then goes to investigate it. It's very similar to that in some ways, but in a super high technology way. So there's two main vendors right now that are operating in the state. One is a company called Flock Public Safety, and another is called Vigilant, which is owned by Motorola. I've worked with the Vigilant system before. I'm pretty familiar with it, and I'm becoming more familiar with the Flock system. Kristen, I was wondering if you could give us your 10,000-foot look at what this is and how it works.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Chief, for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen here. Good evening, Mayor, Town Council members, Town Manager, Ross community members. My name is Kristen McLeod, as Chief introduced me. I'm a Community Engagement Manager with Flock Safety, and my role really is to provide information to community members and elected officials such as yourselves about our technology. I will put the disclaimer out there, I am not in sales. And as Chief mentioned, tonight I'm going to provide a very quick overview focused on our company's automatic license plate reading technology, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. With that, a brief background on Flock. We're an Atlanta, Georgia-based company founded in 2017 by our CEO, Garrett Langley. He founded Flock after he himself experienced an uptick of crime in his own neighborhood. He set out to create an efficient, affordable, ethical technology to increase community safety and to provide efficient tools to assist law enforcement. This all started with our flagship product, the automatic license plate reader, which is our focus today. So we see that police resources are limited across the nation. Many officers are pulled in different directions and just don't have the technology needed to do their jobs. Crime continues in communities and trust is really paramount. Flock sees the opportunity to utilize technology for good, as Chief mentioned, to help multiply the force, to protect the community and your first responders with technology. We focus on collecting and distributing objective evidence and getting that to the right users, your officers, and also engaging the community to support and grow this kind of program. We work with commercial entities as well as private HOAs. Oftentimes when these entities purchase our cameras, they will provide local law enforcement. They're very happy to provide local law enforcement access to their cameras, which really expands the resources for the city. So this is the camera, we call it our Falcon, and these are going to be mounted on either an existing pole or a Flock pole, which is typically about 14 feet in the air, the Flock poles. They're solar powered, so when you see these in the community, you will see this camera mounted to a pole with a solar panel attached above the camera. The cameras are stationary. They're motion activated and focused on the rear, capturing a still image of the rear of a vehicle. So this picture here is a really great representation of what the cameras capture. Again, the rear of the vehicle, and it's focused on vehicle attributes, not people. The cameras operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For our law enforcement partners, they will receive real-time alerts from the National Crime Information Center on wanted or suspect vehicles, as well as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, so AMBER alerts. And in addition, they can receive alerts from custom lists that are created by law enforcement, again, to alert quickly on wanted vehicles. So this is license plate recognition, gathering objective evidence, alerting police of wanted vehicles. It's used to solve crime, and we adhere to all state laws. Probably more importantly, what this is not, this is not facial recognition. There is no collection of any biometric or sensitive information in the ALPR system. It is not used for tracking speed or parking violations, and it's not long-term stockpiling of data. Our data, out of default, automatically hard deletes at the 30-day mark. So how does it deter and eliminate crime? It's proactive. I mentioned our officers being alerted to wanted vehicles. So when a wanted vehicle passes by a camera in a community, officers will receive an alert in less than 20 seconds. It's investigative, so they have about 30 days of historical information to search in the event a crime occurs and they're needing to locate information and obtain evidence. We've also heard anecdotally from departments that when flock cameras are placed in the community and they start seeing results in impacting crime, word travels quickly among circles of folks intent on committing crimes, and it makes it a lot riskier for them to do so. Flock really believes in being a trusted partner and building ethical technology. And so that's why we have built in privacy as well as accountability safeguards into our system. First, very important point is that the footage is owned by the city and the department and will never be sold or shared by Flock, period. I mentioned the 30-day data retention, and then the image is hard deleted and unrecoverable. If your officers are investigating a crime and they are able to access an image within that 30-day period, they may download that image into their evidence repository system and retain that. However, if it is not accessed within a 30-day period, again, that image is hard deleted and unrecoverable. It's taking the human bias out of crime solving by detecting only objective data. All of the data is stored securely. Although there's no sensitive information in the system, we still wholeheartedly believe in protecting that information. So it's stored securely on the Amazon Web Services cloud and encrypted end to end. With regard to accountability mechanisms, something important to point out is that the Flock system requires a search reason. And that search reason and the user number is saved indefinitely, which creates an audit trail so that Chief and the administrators of his system, whomever he appoints, can ensure that the system is being used in accordance with department policy. Again, we are not facial recognition. There's no sensitive information within the Flock system. It's not used for parking enforcement or tolls. We're not connected to any third-party databases such as Carfax or DMV. And then something unique to Flock is it's free and it's optional for our law enforcement customers, and it's a transparency portal, which is a public-facing web page that provides your community information on how your police department is utilizing the system. And let me switch here to give you a better view. So this is San Rafael's transparency portal, and they have provided an overview of what the system is for their community and also some information regarding policy. They've included what is detected, what is not detected, their acceptable and prohibited uses, their hot list policy. They have a link down here to their department ALPR policy. And then they've also shared some high-level statistics on usage. How many vehicles the cameras in their community have detected in the last 30 days, how many searches their officers have conducted in the last 30 days. So again, a really great way to share with the community how the system is being utilized. And while that's an external facing, it's information for the community, we also have an insights dashboard, which is a tool for Chief and his administrators of the Flock system, where they can look and measure crime patterns and see the return on investment. Are officers actually using the system? What types of crimes are we impacting? Is this making a difference for our community so that Chief and you all can make decisions into the future? The audit search history is also kept in that dashboard. And while Flock operates as a subscription type service, so we procure the hardware, we take care of installation, we own the hardware, and we maintain the camera's health, we provide all of the software updates, everything is included so that officers can start utilizing the tool. While we take care of all that, Chief can also look in the Insights dashboard and see how the cameras are functioning and operating. And to end, we are working with over 400 law enforcement agencies throughout California. As Chief mentioned, we are working with agencies in Marin County, including San Rafael PD, Sausalito, Marin County Sheriff's Office, Novato, Belmarin Keys, and Central Marin PD. And I will stop there. I'm happy to share some use cases and success stories as well if the council is interested.
Thank you. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it, but none of this really works unless the cameras are placed in the right location. And that's something that, I've originally, when I looked at, one of their technicians looked at our town, it was too much and it was all over the place. So what I did was I was able to look at areas that are ingress and really ingress areas. I care a lot about what's coming into this town. Cars that leave this town have just done something. I would like to prevent crime. And so for me, I'd like to know when they come into town so that we have a fighting chance to go and find a suspect vehicle. Having said that, it really is, I do have to manage a little bit of expectations on these things. The information is only as good as the information that is put into it. So if somebody steals a car and we don't know about it, or it's involved in a burglary and it's not been reported yet, well, it won't alert on Flock. I mean, I know that's kind of an obvious thing, but I think it's important to say it out loud. The other thing is, our town it was about 3 miles. You can get into our town and out of our town in about 30 seconds. Traffic, permitting, of course. So by the time you get the information, you hop in your car and you go look for the bad guy, they could be already out of town. Or, we're playing hide and seek trying to find them in town. So I just think it's important to say that. It's not the save all, but it definitely provides us with a fighting chance. To give you just one little example is the robbery that we had in town. We found the suspect vehicle and were able to process it for evidence in that car only because the camera system told us where that car was last left. Otherwise, it could be anywhere in the Bay Area. It could be anywhere in the state. But the camera system, just happened to be Flock, was able to track it to an East Bay community. We alerted the East Bay Police Department. They found the car for us, and we got some evidence out of it. So that's kind of the beauty of this. You still have to put police officers on the ground. You still have to knock on doors to make this happen, but this definitely gives us a fighting chance. One thing she didn't mention, it's also used for silver alert. Let's say we have a member of our community that gets in their car and drives away and becomes missing and it has dementia, not able to find their way home. We can enter that information in the system and it will help. Hopefully, it will help to find where that car last was. Again, gives us a fighting chance. So in my report to you, I attached some information from the International Chiefs of Police, some information from Flock. I also attached sample policies. Those policies were taken from local agencies here in this county, Santa Fe, Sausalito, and I also looked at another agency, it's similar to ours, Los Altos. I looked at these information, I took the best parts of it to create a draft policy. So once, if we're fortunate enough to move forward with this, we'll work on that further to find a policy that works for our town. We will not share our information with federal agencies. That's kind of a given. Everybody is there. We won't do that. We will not share our information with out-of-state agencies. So we won't be doing that. I can tell you tonight I spoke with Chief Norton from the Central Marin Police Department. They're currently installing cameras as we speak in the area, and while he doesn't want to tell us exactly where they are because he doesn't want them to be vandalized, he did say that there's a camera that will benefit us. So I also know that the sheriff is installing some cameras very close to us as well. So I will collaborate with those police departments. I don't want to double dip. I don't want to spend money where we don't have to spend money. If there's another agency, they've all pledged to allow me to look at and access their systems, and we would do the same for them. With that, I'll wrap this up. I've made some proposals of where I think cameras might go. These are just suggestions. I'm looking at areas in town. The main area is obviously Sir Francis Drake, but there's also other ways to get into our town. The main part is I'm looking for neighborhoods. I want to try to protect our neighborhoods the best I can without putting 1 million cameras up. And I think we can do that by smart location of putting these cameras. So I think that's about it. I mean, there's a segment about cost. The cost, the Flock system, we would lease them for a number of years. And Kristen, you can jump in on that. I think it's 2 or 3 years lease.
Yes, we can. Typical contract term is about 2 years.
Okay. There's another, and there's a $150 installation. There's another company that has, again, a couple different options where you can purchase them outright. The other company is $6,000, or they have a $3,000 option like this. However, there's a $475 a year fee per camera. Flock does not do that. And at the end of it, the other company, you own the camera, so then you own all of it. So if it breaks, you own that as well. So these are some of the considerations. It's all in my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Questions? Julie?
I noticed that there's only one camera for Winship Park, and there's 2 other entrances and exits.
Right.
And I believe that San Anselmo may be looking into this, and so maybe they could be responsible for one of those on Barber.
Yeah.
But the one by the Winship Bridge, I mean, it would be great to have cameras on all 3 of those areas, given how many people live up those streets.
Right. So would they have to drive? They would have to drive on Sir Francis Drake. I'm driving the town in my head right now as I'm speaking to you. Would they have to drive on Sir Francis Drake to get to that particular area?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be a camera at our city limits facing.
If they could just be coming from San Anselmo and go in and then go out through San Anselmo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consideration for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a question on deterrence. And maybe our consultant can talk a little bit about how criminals know if a flock system's there and how it deters crime.
That's a good question, Kristen, because your cameras are pretty discreet, so I'll let you take it.
They are. So when the cameras are in the community, and so say a stolen vehicle passes by a camera and that person is apprehended, oftentimes those folks talk to each other, and it spreads pretty quickly, and the impact can be fairly quick. I'm thinking of one community in Washington that within a year's time, they were able to reduce the number of stolen vehicles by 25%. And so with those types of impacts, again, that word often spreads among circles pretty quickly. And so again, it makes it riskier to drive through your town in a stolen vehicle, drive to your town to commit a crime in a stolen vehicle, which is oftentimes the case.
And sorry, just to be clear how it works, if a stolen vehicle goes by a camera, does it alert the police?
Yes. So the system, oftentimes officers will have the Flock system on their mobile terminal in their patrol cars. We also have an app. So on their department issued cell phones, they may be able to receive alerts. However, the chief would like to configure that. But they can get an alert right in their patrol vehicle. So once that stolen vehicle passes by a camera coming into your community, your officers will be alerted within 20 seconds. And that is a very conservative estimate. I think it's actually much quicker than that. Within seconds of that vehicle and its location.
Okay, and last question for me is if a crime's committed, so for example, I was at Natalie Coffin Green, somebody broke into a car, stole a purse out of a car. Would this system help see which cars either went in and left the park during the time the crime was committed? So yes and no. We would have to place the camera in the proper location, which, obviously that's our goal, and then have a time frame of when it happened. So you can get a printout of every single license plate that came and went. So then it's just detective work. It's just trying to figure out who, what, and where, because it doesn't take a photograph of the crime being committed. It just gives you license plates of cars that access that site. So yeah,
it's still a lot of work, but it's more than what we would have had without it.
So in that hypothetical situation, would this have helped?
I think it could. I think it could have. Yeah. I think, and in fact, to give you to maybe share a little bit, we have a resident that has one of these cameras, and we get access information. It's not pointed in the right direction, so we don't get like super great information, but we get some information, and it has been helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could also just add a little bit to that, something that I didn't highlight, we're focused on, of course, license plate recognition. However, Flock does have technology, we call it our vehicle fingerprint technology. So if a crime were to occur and there is a witness in the area, and oftentimes it's really difficult if a witness is, witnessing something traumatic or a crime happening, to be able to provide a license plate can be pretty difficult. So if a witness is able to provide officers, even with a vehicle description, the make, the model, the color, if there was a roof rack, that is all information that officers can filter in the system to narrow down, mountains and mountains of potential vehicles to help that investigation move along quicker.
Thank you. I have a quick question for Christine or Kristen.
Kristen.
Hi, I'm Krista, town manager in Ross here.
Hello.
If the cameras were to be installed, if they are hit by vehicles or vandalized, is the responsibility on Flock to come in and repair them, replace them, fix them, paint them?
Thank you. Yes, that is a great question. So if the camera is damaged as a result of vandalism, theft, that would be the city's responsibility, and it's not replacement of the entire camera. I'm looking at our equipment replacement costs right now, and total replacement of a camera would be $800. Our cameras are about $3,000 per camera per year. We do have a one-time some installation costs depending on if we're utilizing existing infrastructure or a Flock pole. But any other reason, if there's something faulty on the cameras and the hardware, that is our responsibility.
Are there areas where we would want a surveillance camera, or are we limiting this to just license reader cameras?
I've come with the suggestion of the license plate reader cameras. I think they seem to work well. I think surveillance cameras create all kinds of new issues that maybe we wouldn't be prepared for. The upside for us is that this is older technology. It's been around a long time, and it's been tested a lot already in this county. So we're actually late to the game, which I'm okay with, because I think a lot of the bugs and the problems have been worked out. So, yeah.
Krista,
What she said. I know, sorry, just wanted to add on to what Councilmember Robbins said. Are there areas that you would want surveillance? So if we could have a camera on the common or somewhere where, there's a high likelihood of crime. I know that's off this topic, but is that something you might want to suggest at a future time?
I'd like to think about that a little bit. Naturally, my first inclination is to say yes, but I would like to give it a little more thought.
Councilmember Dowling.
Krista, do we have the funds for this now, or is this something we have to put off until next year?
Well, this is not budgeted. You do have reserve funds. You've been diligently building them up. And that's what we would have to ask the council to make an appropriation. And then on an ongoing basis, it would have to be put in the budget, and it would go to the council for annual approval, just like the rest of our budget. I would like to, we can start off with a pilot program. If you noted in the presentation, the city of San Rafael has 19 cameras. They are, 3% of the size of San Rafael? And, I guess I would just caution us from adding on to what the chief has recommended just in this initial phase, because it is not budgeted, and and there is so much work being done by our neighbors. So this is being brought to you as a concept. The title is Consideration of Public Safety Camera Installation, so you can continue to have a conversation about other kinds of cameras. It doesn't necessarily need to be flock, but we're looking for direction. If you want us to move forward, we would have to look into a contract with the provider and bring it back to the council. And I'd be looking at these issues in particular about how much it's going to cost us to replace, if they're hit, where the likelihood of them being hit by vehicles is important. We have vehicles hit signs and fire hydrants and stuff like that all the time. So that's going to have to be part of we'll need to add that into our cost consideration if we are held to that, Chief. Thank you.
It sure would make sense to me. I like the idea of thinking of it as a pilot. And as a pilot, we're talking about 8 cameras. That's part of the pilot. That is the pilot. Correct.
That's the chief's recommendation.
Okay.
And that recommendation is based on, so one camera on each side of Sir Francis Drake, for example, so you catch them coming into town. But then we have Laurel Grove. You can come into town from Laurel Grove, a back way in, or you can come into town from Poplar, coming from the College of Marin, that's a back way in. So then that's where your camera numbers start adding up, because there's so many ways into town. Or you could decide to just, hey, let's just put a couple on Drake and see how that goes. That's possible too. It doesn't get the neighborhoods necessarily, but it gets cars coming into town, and then we would just have to do our work and figure that out.
I mean, I think it's something we should consider because, it's only license plates, and we have had crime that we haven't seen in the past, and I think it's a reasonable effort to try to deter it. I would support going ahead with the pilot.
Yeah, I would support it too, especially given that we're going to need to go out to the public for funding for our facilities. And I think to the extent we can say we've taken these steps to make our town safer, they will have more confidence in what we're doing. I was sitting here thinking, oh, it's so great that we only have to do our public safety tax renewal every 10 years. And then I was thinking, well, it would be great if we could have this be an element of the public safety tax renewal, but we're not looking at that for another 10 years, so.
I would agree.
I was going to say, do you have a question, Terry? Okay, let's hear public comment then. Anyone present on Zoom? I don't see anyone in the room.
There's no raised hands online.
Okay, back to the council then for discussion. Do we need a vote on this then, or not an action item, but appears there's a consensus that this is a good idea.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a pilot. I think we should make sure we've got the funding to do this pilot, and then consider in the future, based on the pilot, if we need more cameras or not.
Great, okay, so moving on then to...
Thank you, Chief and Town
thank you.
Manager, for bringing this. I think this is going to be a big improvement for safety and make our residents feel like we're taking the crime seriously. So thank you for bringing it.
Okay. Item 14, Town Council to discuss and provide direction to staff on the potential restoration of the Ross Common Playfield. Public Works Director Simonich.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Rich Simonich, Public Works Director. I have a brief presentation and a discussion here. Okay. So tonight we're seeking a recommendation from Town Council about how to move forward with the restoration of the Ross Common playing field. In July, we met with members of the Ross Property Owners Association, some residents, myself, the town manager, and members of DPW. to kind of discuss a restoration program for the Ross Common. We do not have this item on our current budget. We were hoping the cost would come in around maybe 50, 60,000, depending on the limited scope that we were looking at for the field. So tonight in my presentation, I want to go over a few considerations to kind of take a look at the condition of the field as it progressed since the reconstruction of Ross School, and then talk a little bit about where we want to go. So kind of the timeline for the Ross Common playfield restoration. In 2011, the Ross School was renovated, requiring relocating the portables onto the Ross Common playing field. And post-construction restoration was, it lacked a comprehensive plan, and there was very little follow-up. So when construction was over, the portables were removed, but there was construction debris and that sort of thing left on the playing field, and the compaction over several months damaged parts of the playing field. 2017, we installed a 5,000-gallon storage tank, increasing the irrigation storage by 50%. But then we found that the wells were not filling the tanks to keep up with the irrigation cycle. So we were actively trying to come up with some solutions to improve the playing field. So in 2021, the town hired a consultant or contractor to clean and rehabilitate the irrigation wells and replace the sprinkler heads. It cost around $30,000, and it did actually improve the irrigation capacity by 20%. We got the sprinkler heads were shooting the water longer, we got more coverage, and we were able to recharge the storage tanks with irrigation water. So it was a big step. And then December 2021, the town adopted the landscape master plan, which vetted the restoration of the common as a popular project, with costs estimated between $600,000 and $800,000, and some estimates putting that over the $1 million mark for a complete restoration of the playing field. Constrained facilities budget continues to prioritize town administration facilities project funding over the restoration of the Ross Common. So it's kind of a look back on the Ross Common playing field. This is a photo from 2014, so you can see the heavily damaged portions of the field from the location of the portables around here. This is actually the sprinkler coverage as the irrigation system is trying to restore the field. It was an uphill struggle there. So moving on to 2018, you see a little bit of an improvement on the field. You can still see the locations of the where the portables were and the compacted subgrade of the turf and its lack of its ability to recover. And then in 2024, the colorization is a little bit saturated on this photo, but you can still see the irrigation wells have been working for 2 or 3 years, and you see the areas of the turf have come back vibrantly, but there's still these damaged areas that just will not respond to the treatment that our landscape contractor does and the adequate watering. It's not recovering very well at all. So it's a well-known problem. As you walk out on the field, you can see that there are areas of the field that are distressed. So options to consider once we got the estimates back from the contractors. The cost came in at $250,000 to say $300,000 just to restore 1/3 of the field, a kind of a pilot type program. Now the drawbacks to doing that and not taking it on as an entire project for the restoration of the field. Segregating it into 1/3 of the field would require locating constructing a bypass of the irrigation system so that the rest of the field could be irrigated. Dividing the restoration of the turf into phases impacts your economy of scale and the savings that could be realized through that. And I think most importantly is dividing the restoration of the turf into different sections over different fiscal years. You start getting a patchwork effect, and you start getting the circus wagon effect, where this part of the field is good, then the next year, and then the next year. So you have a overall uniformity of the playing field is impacted by doing it that way. So, currently and in the past, we've envisioned the restoration of the field to be one entire project where you redo all of the irrigation and all of the field. So we've come here tonight to get some input from council on how we want to proceed with this. We could defer the project to the future budget considerations coming up and review it then, or we could move forward with this limited scope project pending contributions from RPOA and other sources to provide sufficient funding of $250,000 to $300,000 to make this, put it out to public bid and make this a publicly or privately funded capital project. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll pass it over to you for discussion, and I'm available to take questions.
Questions, Matt?
So what's driving the cost, the 250? And can you just give us a little elaborate on what the bid that you got entailed?
Yeah, I mean, what's driving the cost is labor. There's a lot of work to remove the 4 to 6 inches of turf and then restore the irrigation. I mean, it's mainly labor, but there's a lot of excavation that needs to be done. I mean, the entire field is 2.5 acres. So, what 3/4 of an acre is, that's a lot of, to do just the 1/3 of the field is still a lot of work. And it's primarily labor costs. And these costs that came in, they didn't consider prevailing wage. They're likely that they're union firms, so it's fairly similar to what you'd see in prevailing wage, but that's what's driving it, is the high labor costs. And then the restoration.
Because they have to do it by, do they have to do it by hand? They can't bring in a machine?
Labor includes the operating of heavy equipment, yeah, okay. So.
Julie.
Rich, it seems to me like most of the area in need of repair is directly attributable to the school renovation and the portables being plopped on that area. And I'm wondering if you could quantify, like on a percentage basis, what percentage of the repair is necessary because of the school renovation? It seems like it's 100%, but, I don't know.
No, it looks like it's about 40 to 50% of the field was impacted by the construction at the high end, maybe 30% at the low end. We do have plans on where the portables were located. We can get a pretty good quantitative analysis on exactly what percentage was caused by it. But it is an old field that's hasn't seen renovation or restoration in I think at least 50, 60 years. So.
Does the school have any responsibility for the field, or is it just the town that has the responsibility for the field? Or is it a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both. The maintenance contract is divided between the town and the school on a certain percentage basis.
That's the maintenance contract.
That's the maintenance contract,
But
yeah.
to redo this, to have this project, are we talking about the cost being shared by the school?
That's a good question. We'd have to ask the school what their thoughts are on contributing those type of monies to restore what is actually town property. So I'm not sure.
And the full field would be about 600,000 as opposed to a third of the field?
I would say the full field would be closer to 800,000 or $1 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a benefit in, I mean, it sounds like doing it all at once could be less expensive, but is there a benefit in splitting it up into two segments so that half of the field could be usable to the children?
That would be better than breaking it up into three pieces for sure. So we do one side and then the other, but you still have the, they'd have to be back-to-back projects, I would think, to do them 1 year and then do it the next year. But what would be the purpose of that? I mean, is it funding? I mean, these are questions for discussion. Is it funding or is it something else? I think if we're going to do it, we should do the whole thing. I don't see the, well, it's your discussion. So I don't see the point in breaking it up, but definitely doing it in twos instead of threes would be better.
Excuse me, through the mayor, Councilmember Robbins, do you mean a third of this project area that Rich has described? Or do you mean a third of the entire field, the $800,000 project?
I was thinking we would renovate the entire field, do half of it, and then when that's finished, do the other half, so that there's always some playing field available to children. That was my thought.
So half of it would be, you're thinking a $400,000 project and then another $400,000 project?
I guess so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it may not make sense. It may be better to just close the whole thing. But I know when we've tried to do some modest upgrades, community members have said, gee, could some of it be kept open for Ross Rec and for children in sports?
Was there some possibility that the Ross Property Owners Association would contribute to part of the cost?
There is that possibility, and perhaps when we go to the public discussion, we have a member of RPOA who could answer that.
All right, one last question. How long would it take? Is there any estimate of how much time, if we were to do it all at once, or just the timeline?
The timeline is 2 to 3 months to do it, and we've done, I would think, during the summer when school is out. And it should be done in 2 to 3 months easily.
And you're talking about the entire project, not just the scope that's talked about in this staff report?
Yeah, I'm talking about the entire project, and even breaking it up is going to be a month and a half, 2 months, so yeah,
Well, if it's 2 to 3 months, I don't think we should break it up.
Yeah.
If there's no further questions, then let's open it for public comment. And I see Jeff is here. Are you going to? Yes, please. Yeah, the podium, please, Jeff. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jeff Koblick with the Ross Property Owners Association. And so some of our members sort of initiated this project, came to us and said, hey, we really need to do something. If we could show the slide again, Richard, of the field.
Yeah.
And these were members who have children at the school. And the primary problem is that the field that's most adjacent to the school is in the worst shape. And a big part of it is drainage. And we looked at the drainage with Richard and Krista because it basically, if I can walk over here.
You could use the pointer if you want.
Pointer, all right, see if I can, how do I do the pointer? There we go. Oh, there it is, okay. So kind of right in this corner right here, the drainage is really pretty messed up, and when it rains, there's a pathway that walks through there, and the path is under several inches of water. And the field gets so muddy in here that if any kids run on or whatever, they destroy the grass because it's just not drainage. So we originally were kind of taking a look at the drainage, and I think there is some drainage there, right, Richard, that we looked at?
Yeah.
And but it just needs to be fixed or improved, or something needs to be done. And then the other part of it was that this area right here is pretty compacted with some gravel and residuals from the construction. And so we really were just kind of looking at this, let's just get this section cleaned up right now. And the reason for that is that on rainy days, the kids they have to all play on the asphalt. And you get a high concentration of children in a small area, problems result, bullying, fights, whatever, people getting hurt, everything else. So we talked with the president of the Ross School PTO, and they were hopeful of being able to raise some funding there from the school level. There was pushback from the superintendent that we don't really have the money, but I think there is some, I think there's some opportunity to try and get the school to contribute. The Ross property owners will contribute, and we're looking at this being one of our major fundings, maybe $50,000 we would contribute. But this is really the area that really needs, immediate attention, and it most impacts the kids at the school here, because this is the area that they're using the most and quickly gets denigrated during the rainy season. So that was kind of where we started off when we walked with Richard and Krista's. We were kind of really just focusing on this section and the drainage in the corner there. And so I kind of feel like that's almost an emergency situation when the path is under, several inches of water. It's something needs to be fixed, basically. And then in terms of the rest of the field, I was a soccer coach back in the day when my daughters were younger, whatever. But it's amazing. I don't know if any of you ever looked. I would urge the council to go take a look at the Basich field and then take a look at our field. And they seem to have done a really good job of maintaining that field. It has lots of soccer games on it, lots of activity all year long, but the field is well maintained throughout the year. It's got good, decent drainage is a big part of it, because if you don't drain, then it gets muddy and then it gets destroyed. And so you got to start with that. And then, as Richard said, layer in, some good soil that again, promotes the drainage. And so, I'd urge the council to budget some money to let's face it, this is the center of our town. This is where our kids play. It's really the key part of Ross. It's one of the things that makes Ross so special. And if you look at what's going on at Basich and other fields, we can do better. So, thank you.
All right, so any other, let me see if, did you have a question for Jeff?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Jeff, how much did you say that the Ross Property Owners Association might be able to contribute?
We'd contribute up to $50,000. And we were hopeful that the school would kick in maybe 100,000 or something like that. But maybe some pressure needs to be put on the school, because they're the chief beneficiaries of this, right? Of this space.
When you said the school, it's a PTO.
I don't know if it's what part of the school, there's the PTO. I think the PTO raises over $1 million, I know that, but they don't have discretion of where it gets spent. I think the superintendent, some of you have been on the school council, so you know who has a discretion of how to spend that money, but I don't think it's the PTO itself. I think they just raise the money.
Thanks, Jeff.
But
I thought they were thinking about doing like a fund a need at their auction for the field.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the initial thinking. And then, but then the superintendent pushed back on that a little bit, saying, no, we'd rather allocate it to more computers or this or that type of things. So maybe some discussion needs to be had there, but so.
So would the Ross Property Owners Association be interested in upping the amount? 50,000 this year?
We can try and raise more money for sure. Get people involved in it. I can't.
Because I think 800,000 is a lot of money. And, I don't know about the town being able to come up with a lot of money next year to do this, but if it was a a joint effort between the school and the Property Owners Association, and people sort of contributed the amount so we could do it all in one time would be great.
Well, I do think, per what Richard said and Councilman Robbins too, that what the parents are saying is they want to have some portion of the field available for kids to play on at all times. So they would prefer it to be done in segments, 2 or 3 segments, so that there's still some playing field they can go play soccer on, while a big portion of it's under construction. And so that's the feedback we're hearing on that issue.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Cindy, anybody online?
No raised hands online.
Okay, bring it back then to the council for discussion. Elizabeth.
So, I'm not surprised David Rice pushed back on the auction. I doubt that the school has that kind of money, to use for the field. It really takes, a real fundraising effort if it's not going to come out of the town's budget, because I don't think it's going to come out of the school's budget. And it would be nice if someone at the school or RPOA, launched that kind of fundraising effort. But you almost need, a couple of angel donors who will step up and give you $150,000 each just to get it going. And I don't know if that's a priority for people. The money's a problem. I do think, Jeff, if it only takes 2 or 3 months, I actually would backtrack on saying it should be split up. I would just do it all at once, just for savings.
It seems to me like when the school was renovated, there must have been money set aside for restoring the common. And it seems to me like the restoration was not done effectively, and maybe there's still money available from the construction fund that could be used to help pay for the restoration of the common that the construction project clearly damaged.
Yeah, that does seem logical. It was so long ago. It's like, what?
Yeah, but we're all paying for those bonds. We're going to be paying for those bonds for the next 25 years.
Right.
I think that's worth exploring. But I would love to have a new common, and I would love to have a new common all at once. I think that would be great. But I think we need to keep our eye on the ball, which is doing this facilities renovation. And that was in our general plan in 2004. That was a priority. It's now 2024. By the time we get to this construction, it's going to be 2028 or 2029. And I am really hesitant, reluctant to erode the amount that we've saved, especially given the skyrocketing construction costs that we all know we're going to be looking at. So I would be more amenable to doing the smaller project, solve the problem, and then once we have a better feel for what the construction costs are going to be and what the schedule's going to be, then we can step back and look at redoing the whole common.
But do we even have the money for the smaller project? That still would take some fundraising, right?
Yeah, I think, I think someone needs to revisit with the school if they're going to do a fund a need. I don't know, Jeff, if you're the one to help spearhead that. I don't think maybe we should set a limit of how much town capital we should be committing to this, calling it emergency project.
May I add a clarification?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kristen. There's a question.
Oh, thank you. I brought this forward to the council as a concept because normally we would do it during the budget process because you have other infrastructure needs, including the big one coming up, but we have other infrastructure needs in town. But I was encouraged to bring this forward because of some of the community members involved with the school especially indicated that they really were hopeful that they could raise a lot of money for it. And they have kind of backed away from that, probably because of conversations with the school superintendent on what they can fundraise. So if I had known that, I probably wouldn't have been so eager to bring it forward, because we do not have this in the budget. One thing you also please have to remember is not only is there the costs for the contractors and all that, but we have one person who would be doing this project, and he is sitting right here. And he has a lot of demands on his time. We're looking at doing a repaving of Sir Francis Drake that's going to be all-consuming. He has the Winship Bridge project. You have now two groups of residents in town who demand his time, need his time to work on the undergrounding assessment districts. He's working on enabling projects for this project here. We have our own undergrounding project we're trying to get off our feet. So it's not just the money that you spend on the contractor. It's very, very limited staff time. So I share Councilmember McMillan's concerns about, $1 million is 1/10 of what you've saved up for your project. And you have a police station that's literally crumbling. So I just wanted to make those kind of downer comments. Thank you.
Well, sorry to be the one person who's always a little different than the rest of my colleagues, but I feel like this is the lifeblood of our town. It's used every day by not just the school, but the Ross Rec Department for a multitude of activities. And it's in disrepair, and it's very obvious. It floods, and I think we're probably wasting a lot of town money on maintenance that we wouldn't need to be spending to year after year fix the field because it's flooding and it's muddy and kids are ruining it. So I think the most important thing was that Rich Seminich brought up was that it probably hasn't been really looked at or fixed in over 50 years. So we have to, this building obviously needs a lot of work, but so does the Common. And I think that it's not an either or. We have to take care of our infrastructure. And if we had, I know that Public Works has spent a lot of time to work on drainage around town, which you don't necessarily always see, but it's to prevent flooding, and it's important. And the Common is just as important as any other infrastructure project. And I would argue it's probably more so because it's used every day by everybody who lives in this town. And if the priorities are to better the people's lives, there's nothing better we can do than make the Common as wonderful and usable for the people that live here. And right now, it's very obvious from the photos and from all of the commentary that it's not. And I don't know if we should do it all at once or if we have the money for this. We've saved $10 million in this fund. This seems like a very good use of those funds to fix this. I do believe also, lastly, that if we did this as a community and we had RPOA out there marketing this, the school and the PTO, that we could raise a considerable amount of money from the public at large to supplement what the town will do. But this is what we're here to do, is spend the money on worthwhile projects. And I don't think anyone here would think that it's not worthwhile to take care of the Commons.
Rich.
So, Councilmember Salter, that brings up a good point. If it is a drainage issue that can be solved by clearing out the storm drains and fixing the drainage inlets and putting a few more inlets that address the drainage problem in that southwest corner, that's no longer a facilities and maintenance fund, that's a drainage fund. And we do have a fairly robust drainage fund, even with the projects that are going on. So that could be something that we could consider looking at during the budget process.
So what part would be drainage, though? Just the pipes and that kind of thing? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work on the soils and whatnot. I mean, do you have any idea what the scope of the drainage part might be as opposed to everything else?
Yeah, so part of the drainage could be conceivably some regrading of that area to lift it up And then you would need to resod it after you've regraded it. So you've fixed the runoff component by raising the grade a little bit, and then you're putting in catch basins at low areas on it, so you've solved the drainage problem. And then because you've gone through and done the grading, you do need to restore the sod and the irrigation in that location, ostensibly as a drainage project.
And sorry, to clarify, you're saying there are funds already in the drainage fund that could be used towards this?
That's correct.
Enough?
For a project that size, yeah. For a project that the size of that small corner that we scoped out with RPOA, as a drainage project, I see that to be under $100,000, and that's a pretty average sized drainage project that we normally do each year. Another culvert would have to go to the wayside for another year, but that's all part of the budget discussions with council.
Would that 100,000 be a part of the 800,000 for the entire project?
To some extent, yeah.
Okay.
But it's really, it's a drainage project. We're not conditioning the soil to any great extent, and it's going to look like a patchwork type project. But if that's where we want to go, is just fix the drainage so kids aren't sloshing around, which I've been out there during storms. I don't see collecting water that much, but I have seen that storm drain clog that drains into the creek, and that does cause a little bit of flooding and flowing back overland into the creek. So there is a drainage element there that's related to the drainage infrastructure.
So sorry, so maybe what we're suggesting here is to start with the drainage, and we have funds available for the drainage, and maybe we defer this larger project till later. Is that?
I think that's a reasonable path.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to suggest that I do agree with you that I think the commons is important and it needs to look beautiful. I think our priorities needs to be on our own facilities that we're going to be redoing. So I would suggest that while we deal with the drainage and we pay for that, I think anything in the future, I would really recommend that it not just be on the town, that it really has to be the school, the Ross Property Owners Association have to contribute. So maybe there could be a fund set up that the town could contribute something to it, but it really has to be the school, and it has to be the Ross Property Owners Association, and not just on the town.
And I think it's not so much that the town doesn't want to do it, it's just that our funds are limited, and they are needed right now, and then some, to rebuild the buildings. But this is an important, this is a good project, and if it's good enough, people will donate. I mean, if it's good enough, people will, get a fundraising, get some sort of fundraiser going and see if some of the families can, really make a difference. And we can always have a plaque with names. So maybe that would help.
It's true.
It does seem that with something from the drainage fund and perhaps our POA and the school and this fundraiser that's coming up, it does seem like we could get quite a bit of funding there. I don't know that we could do the whole project though, but certainly maybe a third or a half. Is that right, Rich, that we could sort of segregate the drainage part, but also keep going with it, not have to do this in phases? We could do it all at once, and there would be a drainage portion of it, and then the rest.
I'm not sure I understand.
So let's say that we decide to do the whole, not the whole field, but half the field. So we need $400,000. And then we start out to do that, but we're going to do it all at once. We'll leave the other half available for the kids to play, so we're going to do that half. And part of that will be the drainage part, and then the rest of it will be whatever it is, but it's all done at once.
Yes,
We're not
correct.
doing it in phases. We're not doing the drainage first and then the resodding and something else that's not part of the drainage.
But you could do the drainage first and leave
You
it.
could, okay. Because you mentioned you're resodding and you're doing all this. I'm wondering, does that all kind of fit together then for the
That's
whole
part of the
project?
drainage, isn't it? That you drain that area but have to resod. So
Yeah.
it sort of fixed the wet, muddy part, but then we still need a huge fundraiser to do the whole thing all at once.
Rest of it. But as long as it all fits together, I'm just saying, we don't want a patchwork that
But that's what it is.
isn't what we would have
So
had. Yeah.
I guess my recommendation is to go with the funds that are available in the drainage account, fix, repair the issue. And then to the extent that there's fundraising, money from RPOA, hopefully money from the school, et cetera, to enhance that area, that's great. That's just, icing on the cake. But we should use the drainage funds now to fix the drainage.
Well, just to be clear, that the drainage funds are not currently budgeted to do this. This is a budget process for next year.
And I feel the need to add too that, first of all, it's very important that we make sure that we are using the drainage fund for the appropriate purpose. So I would like to make sure that we work with Rich and legal staff and everything to make sure that we're doing that right. Also, the drainage fund is, if I want to remind you, that we spent money, time, and council time on approving a drainage master plan, a year ago? And was this on it?
No.
So this drainage master plan, we had consultants that came in, looked at our entire town, looked to see what were the needs, prioritize those needs. Like, that's the whole point, right, of a master plan. And also to remind you, the council spent money, time, and effort and approved a master plan for the common. And I understand that the big project, let's just call it the big project, was considered by the council and was not approved. Is that correct, Rich?
Yeah, it was never brought up at the budget process to fund the restoration of the field.
Right. So I just, I'm concerned about the growth of this project and managing expectations. When you said, Mayor Pro Tem McMillan, that we could use all of the drainage fund, I wanted to make sure you were, the drainage fund is committed to providing funding right now for Winship Bridge that we hope to be reimbursed back. Right, Rich?
Yeah, we've received considerable reimbursement already, but
Yeah,
you never
but
know.
there's a lot of needs for the drainage, and we need to take a look at it and come back to the council for that. I would be, the idea of doing this entire project when we have a police station that's crumbling, I understand they're all important, but it's my understanding that from the council, as of yet, that public safety is one of the number one priorities for the town. So I would like us to have more discussion about these needs, these competing needs, before the council really settles on this project. Because again, I brought it forward in this manner because of indication from members of the community that they could really raise a lot of money, and I didn't want to lose that opportunity. I would feel more comfortable tonight, because one of the members of the community, Elena Batella, what she wanted is, she wants to fundraise for this through the spring auction, and she told me that she doesn't want to do that and go through all that work and raise those expectations if the council isn't interested in a project. So I worked with, Rich worked on this project. We met with interested members of the community. We brought back a scope of work that we thought was more achievable for right now, but it still needs contributions. So if the council tonight were to say to staff, yes, you're interested in improving the common, you'd like to first work on maybe just a drainage, like Councilmember Salter mentioned, first work on drainage, see what can be done, and or bring forward a smaller the scope that's described in the staff report contingent upon RPOA and the school-related groups. I'm happy to ask the school if they'll contribute. It's my understanding that the school has contributed to some special projects the town has had, so I think the backstop might have been a project, and that, and in turn, they've asked the town to contribute. So this past year, we contributed funding to the refurbishment of the gym floors. So that too is just a partnership we have. It's a little more informal, but we can certainly ask them about that. We can ask about the bond from 2011. I'm not sure. I think it has been a long time. We can certainly follow up with that. And then as part of the budget process, it's a public workshop, it's a budget workshop, members of the community or you could bring up this issue of a bigger renovation and see how it competes with your other CIP, with your other capital projects. That's my suggestion. Hope that was helpful.
Sounds reasonable. I would like to keep this moving ahead and support Elena in what she's trying to do as well. And maybe we can get something that all comes together. Well, yes. I won't repeat.
I just want to add it takes some leadership. Unfortunately, and that's why I really appreciate staff bringing this forward, is there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. So it's a little bit of, well, if the council doesn't want to do it or doesn't have the money, well, then we don't want to fundraise, right? Or without sort of someone stepping forward and saying, hey, no, this is something it is a priority. It does matter. We do care. And I hear that because I think everyone here actually does believe that. It's just we always will have competing priorities. There will always be a drain to fix. There will always be a building that's falling apart. There will always be a limited amount of staff time. This is exactly why we have the council, is to try to sort that out. But I personally believe that the common is the heart of this town. And even more so, I agree, we need public safety, but public safety is actually working. They just don't like it. It's unfortunate, it's crumbling and it's not working, but it hasn't been working for a long time. These buildings have been crumbling for a very long time. They're old. As is the field for 50 years has not had really irrigation done and really had an upgrade. So I think they're both, in my mind, equal priorities. And I just think we should always keep that in mind, that people live and breathe there. And I actually think it will help us with the Civic Center project, because a lot of townspeople always say, well, why are we doing that? Why do we need to fix all that when the field's broken and all these other things that we use every day? Staff definitely understands that, and the council that realizes how bad the facilities are in, but the townspeople don't. So I think we, by showing that we care about infrastructure in general and that this is a priority, will actually help with the Civic Center, because we're going to need to ask them for a lot of money to upgrade the Civic Center. So, and that's not something that they necessarily understand. I really think there's a lack of understanding of really what's wrong with this facility, except for the people who've been really reading about it. So what I'm saying is I think they're both priorities, and we need some leadership, and whether that's just a vote or a discussion that this is a priority for us, and we kind of to give them free rein and see how much they raise. Maybe say, look, by the budget meeting, let's see how much energy there is around this, and then we can approve it then. But sort of giving them an indication that if the money can be raised, the council's very supportive, and the council obviously would allocate some of our capital to do it, but that they're not going to go out and raise money and then we're just going to say no, if that makes sense.
Well, I think we've done that so far, haven't we? I mean, obviously we don't have numbers to plug in, and as Krista mentioned, we have other priorities and budgetary things that we'll have to work out. But we do support doing something on the field. I just don't think we're in a position to be terribly specific about it. But does everyone agree that if not, all right. Is that sufficient for your purposes, Krista, in terms of a direction from the council, or? I'm trying to keep it general, but we are interested, obviously. You know.
So I can tell Ms. Patella that the council is interested in a project, but it's contingent upon how much funding is raised. I mean, maybe they will be wildly successful. But that the council is interested in it, in making improvements.
Sure.
Okay?
No. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, I've forgotten where we are. We've done public comment, so I think we're on to the next matter. Do you need any more on this one?
No, we just have
Yeah.
design review for Natalie Coffin Green projects.
So
Park
that would be
projects.
our next and final action item. Is that 15? All right, so we'll go on to 15, item 15. And Rich, will you be doing the presentation? It looks like it.
Another one of our significant capital projects.
Mayor and Council, thank you again. Rich Simonich, Public Works Director. Tonight we are looking for a recommendation, or it is recommended that the Town Council adopt a resolution 2439 approving design review for the subject project, which is the Natalie Coffin Green Park pedestrian bridge replacement project. A little bit of background. So on October 15th, 2024, just 2 months ago, I presented to the advisory design review group this project, and it was unanimously recommended that the project is consistent with the purpose of design review, and they made it recommended for approval of design review. So that said, I do have a brief presentation to go look at the project and review some of the materials that we're proposing and the design. So this picture right here, that's the current, or that was one of the bridges that we had to take down because it was structurally failing. The girders that were supporting the bridge were starting to bend at the center and unsafe conditions. So we removed all of the bridges, which were all heavily degraded and had exceeded their useful life. Okay, let's see. The project location, of course, is in Natalie Coffin Green Park, near the, or south of the parking lot area. The three bridge locations there is a view relative to the overall Natalie Coffin Green Park. And here's a plan showing the location of the bridges in the park, and I think Jeff stole my pointer. So the gray area at the top right, well, let's see if this one works. I think it does. Yes, so this is the parking area. This is the covered porta potty area here. So the three bridges that are being replaced and are currently have been removed is the bridge here. And you walk past, there's a Three Bear Hut structure. There's another bridge here. As you continue on through the picnic area, there's this third bridge here. So we'll take a look at the materials that we're proposing with these prefabricated steel bridges. Just a little bit of background first. The abutments that are up there, the stone abutments, were likely installed at the same time that the Three Bear Hut was installed. Very similar stone masonry construction and similar stone, that serpentine rock. So we do want to keep those existing abutments that are there currently and come in and set these new prefabricated bridges in those same locations. So this is the one view of the weathered steel rails. This is very similar, if not identical, to the type of bridge that we are going to be speccing out for bid. And I've got another view of that as well. Let's go backwards there. So yeah, that's kind of the weathered steel. The other options to have were, a powder-coated paint type covering, which I don't think advisory design review also agreed that it's not consistent with the rustic appeal of the town. We felt that this would be the best. And then as far as the decking material, we want to go with a natural wood decking material. This is kind of a brand new installation here. The wood looks fairly new. This looks like a pressure treated type redwood decking to maintain the rustic feel. And then as far as the bridge rail material, we want to keep that as put in some wood rail material too, possibly along the top, but definitely along the sides, which will cover part of the steel structure. And advisory design review was on board with that concept. And then for the approach rails, as you're coming up to the bridge, this is the path that leads to the Three Bear Hut, and we're looking back towards that first bridge. So we want to maintain this hog rail or this the split rail type fencing on the approach railing wherever we have a deep drop off on to the creek along an approach path. And these are going to remain for this first bridge. So we felt to be consistent with the rest of the bridges, we'd use these type of approach railings. And so it is recommended by staff that the town council adopt Resolution 2439 approving the design review for the subject project as described. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for comment and questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Were you able to get the samples? Remember, I think at design review, they asked about the samples.
They did. I haven't been able to get the actual samples, but we did forward several locations where these materials are available. One's in San Rafael. There's one in Cotati that I drove up and looked at myself. But the best we could do is give you a few locations, and we could forward those to council as well, where you could go. I think
did you get feedback from, were they able to, design review wanted to see it. Were they able to go and see them and give you feedback?
I didn't receive any feedback. They were very happy to receive these locations, and some of them said that they were going to go out and take a look at them, but I did not receive feedback on that.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have questions?
Just one, at the meeting, I know there was a concern of is it too orange of a color? Did you get a chance to look at the material, or?
I did. So that one picture that was presented during advisory design review, that was a bit saturated. So that's why I went in person up to the bridge it's actually in Rohnert Park. And I was able to take a look at the weathered steel, and it is more consistent with the pictures that I showed tonight. That it's a darker weathered look. It's not that bright orange color. So.
Okay. Right. I remember it was very orange at that meeting.
Yeah, you needed your sunglasses a little bit, but yeah, it is. It's almost identical to the pictures I'm showing you here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, public comment, anyone, Cindy?
No raised hands online, Mayor.
Okay, so discussion. Terry?
I would just like to move to adopt resolution number 2439.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan? Aye. Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Okay, so that concludes our administrative agenda. And item 16 Council correspondence, any correspondence? Future council items? Anyone at this time, Matt?
I'm wondering, from the town manager, did we find out about the pedestrian? Can you share any details about the pedestrian that was killed?
No, I cannot. It's still under investigation. I'm sure they know, but it's under investigation, and we're not able to share the details publicly.
Okay.
Very sad, yeah.
Well, just one future item of discussion is, it's something I brought up, and I brought up to our Public Works Director, is really thinking about just public safety on our roads. And it's just, I know it's really late, but I was just devastated to hear that someone died and was hit and killed in not on Sir Francis Drake, but on one of the smaller roads. And I just am very concerned about, I have been concerned about that, especially with young children. And so I hope we can, it's just a comment, it's something for us to do, but I hope it's something we can really focus on next year, is ways to improve the safety of our roads.
I think in terms of this pedestrian who was killed, it's a horrible situation, but I think we need to, before we jump to any conclusions, we need to await the investigation that's happening. I'm unsure that there would have been anything that the town could have done to prevent this accident. It was an accident.
No, first of all, I want to make clear, I'm not suggesting the town is at fault or we didn't do anything right. I'm just saying, in general, I've been concerned having young children without sidewalks. It's something that we have, just the nature of our town. So just looking at ways to improve that public safety, this is just, to me, another reason to focus there. And we have a public works subcommittee, I'm on it, and I look forward to working with the town staff to find ways to just improve safety in general. But I was just very disheartened from that news. It's just worth mentioning. It's just devastating to lose anyone in that way.
All right, well, I'm sure we all share that sentiment. So that, I think, concludes our business tonight. So with that, we will adjourn the regular meeting and then go back into closed session. Why don't we take a bit of a break first?
Wait, can we table and find another closed session time?
Well, what we have is, we still have to consider the evaluation, and that is something that is due in November. And the reason I wanted to, what? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to start on the closed session without it being a closed session, but this can be fairly brief, but okay. I know we're all tired, but let's just take a 5-minute break. Okay.